All right, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Welcome. We're going to have a clan war now between two historic and strong clans, ODM versus XMT. Got quite a few incredible battles, a lot of very strong and veteran players lined up for you today. I've got Battlesy going to be joining me here in just a moment. Yep. And yeah, just getting all the logistics finalized over here. But things are looking quite good. Yeah, we've got, a lot of friends of the channel. Writer Rohan, obviously. We've got, yeah, a bunch of people here. It's Current Year, Zephos, Loopy, of course, Alfredino, F-Pod, Hadriz, Calamity, a Flying Taco, Chosen One. I mean, so many great players. Bohmond, Uncle Gant, the legendary Bob, Aerocrastic. He even came out of his very successful shell to yeah, grace us with his presence. We got a replay from him, so get back on with Battlesy here. All right, and we are here. Yep, looks like he's gonna jump on. Hopefully you all are well. Just still recovering a little bit from the cold I picked up this week. But yeah, it should be a great day for some battles. I'm definitely excited for what we've got here. Even set up a fancy scoreboard so we can track progress of each clan as they battle it out against each other. Yes. Let's see here. Once Battlesy hops on, we'll get started, load on in, and since both these clans are in different parts of the world, we decided to do some of it on replays, kind of giving you a peek behind the curtain a little bit. Obviously, I haven't watched any of these. I don't know the results, so we'll all be learning it together live, which will still add some drama for sure. And we do have one live game also that will be coming up in about an hour or so. We'll get started on that. Let's see here.
Dav, how are you, matey? Good to speak to you.
Doing good, doing good. Thank you very much. How about yourself?
Cannot complain, cannot complain. Are we ready to crack into some replays here, my friend? Which one do we think we're going to jump into to begin with?
Well, let's start with a longtime friend of my channel, Writer Rohan, facing off against RocketRoux with Nurgle versus High Elves. So,
Roger that one. Let's go ahead and click watch replay, and we'll play it at the same time. Love to see that. Love to see that. So, yeah. Riders of Reader. Did you say Riders of Reaver?
It's Writer of Rohan. Reaver's mark is, you know, he's just getting fancy with it. But he's been a long time patron of mine. He's an artist, by the way. Little shout out if you go on Twitter. I actually don't remember his Twitter handle now, or X, I guess now. But let me pause real quick. So if you get in,
yeah, I'm in the right one. It's High Elves versus Nurgle, right?
Yes. Yep. Once you get to the
double soul grinder situation on Nurgle side.
Correct. Yep. Once you get to the 4-second mark, let me know, and we'll simultaneously play these.
Yeah, sounds good. I am at the 4-second mark, and I'm ready to go.
All right, we'll give it a little 1, 2, 3, and play. So we've got the double soul grinder here. I'll kind of cover Nurgle's side. Double knights, it looks like. Front line of just shielded warriors and a sorcerer lord of death. Interesting, but very straightforward build. Not too much going on here. You want to cover the high elf side?
Yeah, absolutely. We got obviously Techless coming in with the Flock of Doom Regrowth. Nice Tasty coming with the Star Dragon as well. Oftentimes you see very cheap and cheerful units coming in, but we've got pretty veterancy when it comes to the Sisters of Avalon and the Dragon Princes on the flanks, and Silverhelms and another Dragon Prince on the left side. Very surprised to see, normally in land battles, you know, cheap and cheerful and going very wide is something that's quite good. So what's your thoughts on the double soul grinders in this situation here?
The double soul grinders is smart. You can see it's already hitting, dealing damage to the Sisters of Avalon, and the Regiment of Renown also reduces their ammunition count as well. So, apologize if you hear me coughing a little bit. I'm still getting over a cold, so...
Yeah, no worries, man.
But part of the thing for Writer Rohan is you need focus to be able to take down elite targets, and there's a specific synergy here where Techless can net things and give them weakness to fire damage. which then gives extra weakness to fire, well, can get extra weakness to fire from the Talons of Torquilada. Sisters of Averlorn, of course, have fire damage as well, so you can burst very quickly with range damage that way.
Yeah, absolutely, and we've got the Soul Grinders being attacked by the archers at this side. I mean, it could be a situation where you're going to pull the Soul Grinders out a bit, because they can definitely be susceptible to all things range, but a ton of damage has already come through the Chaos Knights of Nurgle is pretty detrimental, especially with the Dragon Princes getting in there. The
Really
Fate of
nice
Buna coming down on
engagement.
the Dragon Princes is great as well.
Fate of Buna doing damage to them, but I mean the Dragon, Teclis, and yeah, the Fireborn just collapse those Knights. They straight up all die. Wow, that's very impressive.
Yeah,
but
wow.
really nice burst engagement from Rohan to just collapse that flank and remove 1500 value pretty much immediately, taking some damage in the process, but I mean, he can definitely heal through that on the Fireborn, so that's not too much of an issue there. And he's also pressuring both the Soul Grinders away, so they're not able to contribute much in melee here.
Your screen block is still on, by the way.
Oh, I'm a pro at this, I promise.
Yeah, sorry, Ryan, thank you for telling me. Someone in my chat just told me. The thing that surprises me the most is that on the Nurgle side, they went a Death Mage. They've got very expensive Soul Grinders, but they haven't gone with healing, which is very surprising to me. Normally when you go a double Soul Grinder, you almost guarantee that you're picking up Nurgle magic, so it's interesting to see the Death Mage coming to kill those elite inventories alongside having single target damage. We've gone very wide with the Chaos Warriors holding the line against the Spearmen, but I think the scary thing in regards to this one is the High Elf Archers in the backline are still firing away. No one really contesting them. The Dragon can start pulling down the weight of the Soul Grinders on the backlines here.
Yeah,
I'm very scared for the Soul Grinders right now.
They're in trouble for sure, and despite the damage taken, you know, even the High Elf leadership is such that these handful of Sisters of Averlorn are still going to hang around, but more importantly, the Talons of Torquilada, of course, are providing that extra weakness to fire. Although dragons don't do fire damage anymore, I think it's kind of a weird change that they should probably reverse. The Fireborn definitely do, so the Talons of Torquilada can kind of just shoot whatever the Fireborn are fighting and give them a massive damage boost. But definitely, I mean, the builds being as they are, the High Elves were able to win a decisive mobility advantage pretty easily, which means really the only threat to the archers is the Soul Grinders, which, as mentioned, are being very well managed right now.
Yeah. I mean, the Star Dragon coming through, but the regrowth on the Dragon Princes, very limited entities have been lost on the Dragon Fireborn side, so they're just going to be completely uncontested here, especially because I don't believe Nurgle has any kind of fire damage as is to contest that. So yeah, a lot of pressure coming down on the Nurgle side, and the High Elf players play definitely to the victory conditions of ensuring shutting down the Soul Grinders where possible.
I mean, Rohan is the High Elf main of High Elf mains. He's probably one of the best High Elf players out right now. He's definitely the most experienced, I would say. And he's also well known for bringing, like, Swordmasters and also the Fireborn now, especially since they're so good. So I kind of understand sort of metagaming, sort of playing to the player, right? Knowing that Rohan has a reputation of bringing Swordmasters, which definitely could have hurt this build quite a bit. It makes sense to me to a degree to see Lore of Death, but I don't know. I think healing is just so strong. I'd probably go with Lore of Nurgle. But there you go.
GG's on the High Elf side. Yeah, it was interesting decision making in relation to the death magic for sure. I can see the need for it, especially against elite infantry, but it's one of those classic cases when you go exceptionally high cost units, you've got to be really careful not to, you know, put them in positions where you can't utilize the fact that they are significantly more powerful than everything else. That goes 1 to XMT.
Yeah, 1 for XMT, and I mean, value-wise, for the High Elves, definitely the Cavalry and the Star Dragon, no surprises there. We're able to get a lot of value. The Talons of Torquilada also contributed value and support, which is nice to see. On RocketRoux side, you know, I don't totally hate the build, but at the same time, I just don't think that Chaos Warriors do a lot for you here. I don't know. I almost would rather see, like, more cheaper units, then give some extra, like, mobility, like Hounds and stuff, maybe to chase weakened or routing units. But anyway, we have a lot of replays to get to, so let's get on to the next one. Let's go to...
Do you want to do Ziphius Icy?
Yes. Its current year is Icy. He's also a friend of the channel. It sends me a lot of great replays. Nice. Ziphius also is well known to be a very strong player. He's beaten the crap out of me many times over the years, so I'm excited to see what he can do with
WoodElves coming back in as well.
Oh yeah.
Like often for a long time, I'm clicking watch replay and I'll pause it at 4 seconds again. For a very long time, I never saw WoodElves. I feel like they have not had their time in the light, but nowadays they're definitely starting to show that they can contend against some of the more popular factions here.
Yes, they got significant buffs in 5.1. They were sort of widely seen as one of the worst factions. I mean, they could be good, but they took a lot to be good with them, and if you were, they were sort of like mid-tier at best. But with some of the buffs they've had recently, they are definitely clawing their way back for sure. So I'm here whenever you're ready. Let's...
Oh, shoot, I'm at 8 seconds, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Let me just... Yeah, 5, 6, 7, 8. We'll count it off like we're doing a musical.
Absolutely.
Alright, so I'll quickly start with the WoodElves. We're going to have some fast action here, so get through it. Glade Lord, got some Way Watchers nuking that Chaos Knight, got Wild Riders going for a quick charge, and Spears to back them up with a Blade Singer in the back. You want to quickly run through those Dark Elves about to get smashed?
Dark Elves, it's Slaanesh, right?
Oh, Slaanesh. I almost got confused because the banner.
Yeah, I was like, am I in the wrong replay here?
No, you're
we got
good.
the Chaos Knights, Slaanesh, we got the Fiends. It's a very popular build that I'm seeing a lot more. Double Fiends, triple Fiends, excuse me, is a super powerful thing to contest with. A lot of devoted Marauders alongside the Chaos Furies. Obviously, since the Entity editions, it's just seen across the board for all Chaos factions. But when it comes to the Herald of Slaanesh as well, coming in with the Haven of Slaanesh, seems like such a popular pick, especially with the Rampage tokens now available. You can throw that down on anything. They don't have to have a percentage HP threshold, but yeah, definitely a relatively wider build on the Slaanesh side. But let's see if they can wrap around and start doing some damage here. Massive shame about the Chaos Knights Slaanesh getting netted up and pressured out, but the Glade Lord's been caught out here.
Yeah, Glade Lord getting surrounded by the Fiends. Fiends are extremely fast, and Fiends actually in 5.1 also got a model increase, which is I think why you're seeing a lot more of them now. It's just, model increase is one of the biggest buffs, obviously, that a unit can get, but Slaanesh countercharging pretty heavily here. WoodElves have had to bring up all their spears and kind of screening the Way Watchers pretty effectively. Way Watchers haven't taken much damage, but let's see how things develop.
Yeah, the cavalry has done a fantastic job to protect against these Furies, pressuring the back lines of the Way Watchers, so fantastic job from the Wood Elf player here, but the balance of power is starting to even as the Slaanesh player gets into the back lines and starts pressurizing some of the more squishier units. A summon has just come out as well, and we can see that, you know, in this situation it's quite difficult, especially when you've got so many of your Way Watchers in the back line susceptible to be attacked like this one. You know, what can we see the Wood Elf player do? Start pulling some cavalry back, and then we can see it.
Yep, you see immediately the countercharge, and Furies are quite flimsy even after the buff, so a countercharge from something like Wild Riders should shut them down pretty quickly. And then the Hawkeyes, their Regiment of Renowned stat is 36 melee defense. They really didn't take much damage from that. They didn't even have to burn their Smoke Bomb either. They do have a little like speed debuff Smoke Bomb AoE they can use if things do get close, but didn't even feel the need to use it there, as the Furies were easily shut down by the Wild Riders.
Yeah, fantastic usage of the backline units coming out from Slaanesh, making sure the Fiends are putting pressure out where needed. You know, the cavalry is obviously doing what they can regarding the Wild Riders and their anti at large, but when it comes to your backline units getting routed off like this, it can get quite scary, especially with the Furies still chasing, but they are disencouraged currently.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure coming down.
You see that Smoke Bomb go off. He was trying to snare those Fiends before they got into the Hawkeyes, but just mistimed it barely. Now gets hit by Narcissism. Silenced, cannot move.
It's silenced now.
Yeah, it's
nice. I didn't realize they silenced. Is that a buff? It must have been a buff recently, because I didn't get silenced beforehand.
I think, did it do damage? I think it was a mild change, but definitely it's very strong. I mean, obviously, if you'd hit the Way Watchers, the Hawkeyes, even before they used that Smoke Bomb, they wouldn't have had the option to, but they mistimed it anyway. And at this point, this Slaanesh rush has landed, and it looks pretty bad for the High Elves.
Yes. Yeah, I think they're definitely going to have to be careful. Yeah, the Wood Elves need to be a wee bit careful there, especially because of the fact that the rush, as you rightfully call out, the Fiends, the Chaos Knights are all moving as one and putting pressure down, and it's very difficult, especially with the malformed amount of units here. It is absolutely a cluster right now, and we have to wait and see if the Wood Elves can start regaining control of the battlefield, starting to use their middle lines to protect the back lines, but it seems it may be a little too late, especially with how, you know, demolished their frontline units are, and the backlines are starting to get pressured at the same time as well.
Yeah, well, and like magic-wise, the Branch Wraith doesn't have anything big burst. It has just, you know, kind of slow damage, slow healing on both its spells, so there's not really a big, like, impactful ability that could potentially come in and change things. So I think Slaanesh pretty much has this one locked down.
Yeah, I do like the Miasma choice as well, especially there to try and counter some of the Slaanesh speed. But I do think Strider on every single Slaanesh unit was a bit of an interesting change. And I'm almost certain we're going to be seeing a lot of Slaanesh coming into the meta nowadays because Strider is so much more impactful than people assume, especially because you get 0 movement penalties by terrain, which is absolutely incredible. Especially, obviously, with utilizing the devastating flanker going around the outside, as they do say. But as you just rightfully called, the writing's in the wall, and now I believe they just write it out. GG's.
GG's. So
Let's
that's
look at the value here.
Another for XMT, and I mean, WoodElves side tried their best, but I mean, the Blade Singers got pretty close. Way Watchers, a little bit of a mixed bag. Wild Riders are probably the highlight, but quite an effective rush. That triple feed, man, I like that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where they are so unbelievably squishy, the Fiends, but you need uptime on these, and especially with the triple Furies, double Cavalry, you just don't have that opportunity, especially with the summons of the Furies coming through as well. It just makes it so impossible because it's a case of very equal count of units coming through, but the quality coming out from each side is a bit of a disparity because I think the Wild Riders definitely do struggle against the Fiends, but as long as the Fiends are going for those devastating flanks, it's just absolutely brutal. But you can see Chaos Knights 1.6k value, not too bad. And yeah, the Fiends, wow, 1.2, 1.6, and 1.8 value. That is incredible on the Fiend side. But there wasn't really anything on the WoodElves side that was like, wow, you performed exceptionally above the mark of your cost, right? There wasn't anything that kind of did similarly to what Slaanesh did, just trying to hold back the insane line of them.
Yeah, it felt pretty overwhelming. I mean, between you've got 4 Furies, including the summon, 2 Knights, 3 Fiends. That's 9 mobile units to have to deal with. Like, there's only 3 Wild Riders, so they had their work cut out for them for sure. But shall we move on?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go Grut versus Nerexa?
Yeah, so we'll start it on our first domination game for the day. Let me make sure I update the scoreboard.
Ooh, love that.
Another score for XMT. So we're currently 2-0. See if ODM can get some back. Nerexa.
Yeah, let's see. Would you say ODM is more of an experienced domination team or more land battles? What would you say their expertise was in?
To be honest, they're pretty well balanced. I see names from ODM players on all tournaments, whether domination, land battles. They seem to be very, very prolific. Same for XMT, honestly. But let me pause as I get the 4-second mark here. We got GreenSkins
just loading in right now.
WoodElves.
We've got Sigurd. I've seen Sigurd play before. This would be interesting to see. It's smoking time, boys. I remember I was playing against Intensity recently, and he was playing WoodElves, and I was playing... It's actually a mirror match. It was a land battle. I was playing the Greenskins, and I went all cavalry. And yeah, he had a very hard time sustaining just nothing but mobility. So, do you want me to jump in with the gobos here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. Okay, so we got some Orc Boy Biggins. Fun fact about the Biggins, anything with big in the name for an inventory for the Greenskins has anti-large. Tons of Biggins coming through alongside the Savage Orc Arrow Boys and Arrow Boys. Orc Shaman coming through with the Fist of Gork and Edbutt. Love the Fist of Gork, especially with the massive amplifications of damage coming out there. And especially with the magical attacks, potentially if they do have the RRR, Wild Riders definitely can pack a punch there. But overall, a really solid roster. Hammer of Gork as well. Love the Goblin Rock Lobbers, especially with the Blinded. Can really pack a punch against these single entities. But do you want to jump in with WoodElves?
Yeah, let's see. WoodElves already getting forward here with the Dryads. They've got some Swift Shiver Shards. A little bit overtuned right now. They kind of overbuffed the range on them a little bit. But that's okay. They'll probably get nerfed in the next patch. Got a bunch of Eternal Guards here. Dryads, great unit to have on reinforcements because of Vanguard and their fast speed. We see another one coming out already. Glade Lord, male Glade Lord up on the dragon. What was that?
What's your time?
What's
your time right now, sorry?
105.
Oh, I'm at 25. So do you play it when you're introing them?
Yes, I do. Sorry.
Right. Oh, I didn't realize you. Normally, what I do, like for me, normally I pause it and then intro them. But yeah, that's fine. Sorry, I'm almost a minute behind you.
Okay.
I'll catch up to where. If you pause it, I'll catch up to where you are.
All right. I'm
on 45 seconds right now. Okay, I'll catch to 107. In fairness, that's my bad because in domination, especially, it takes bloody ages to get to the point anyway. So it would probably be a better idea for me to let it play along. But we do see the cap, obviously the quick caps. I'm not sure if you can see this, but point 2 and 3 is now being contested by the WoodElves. Point 1 being contested by the Greenskins. I'm now at 104. Is that where you're at? did you say?
Yep. 107. So I'll
Right.
start right about now. Should be right on the money. Yeah, they've got those
Sounds
caps
good.
contested. That's one advantage of WoodElves is they've got a lot of Vanguard, a lot of fast units. They can get on those objectives very quickly. GreenSkins could choose to
Absolutely.
Vanguard here with a bunch of goblins, but it's incredibly risky because you just get base charged by Wild Riders and die. So it makes
Yeah,
sense for the Greenskins to go with a little bit more of a slower push here. Nice combined arms. You know, they've got the cavalry in reserve, all their infantry up front, a little bit of artillery, archers. It's, you know, tactical Greenskins.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely trying to smoke here, but the Dryads definitely can trade up really nicely against pretty much all infantry that the Greenskins can put into the battle, but they don't have too many of them. But Greenskins have contested point 3, pushing them back. One of the great moves is just trying to attack them and hold them back beyond the point, so they can't have any capture weight there, but looking to try and push from point 1 to contest some of the point 2s.
Yeah, we've got quite the engagement developing here in the center on that point 3 with a bunch of Dryads now rushing in. I'm wondering, the Dragon, yeah, I was going to say, I think it wants to land here and not have to face this archer line. So if it can get in, maybe use some tools to try and burst these archers off. But, I mean, Orc Arrow Boys are not pushovers in melee, so they're not going to just immediately fall over.
Yeah, definitely a good charge in the middle as well. The Broken Tusk mobs pushing down and pressurizing the Dryads to support the Orc Boys, because Orc Boys definitely would never win that. We can see the Lobbers are trying to contest and support with the Blinded, making the Dryads effectively useless in melee. The Biggins definitely can start trading up, and obviously, as you have rightfully mentioned, there's a massive blob developing within the middle. The Goblins are starting to throw themselves in there at the same time. And we'll have to wait and see if these Orc Biggins can start pushing back from these Eternal Guards, because point 2 is really minimally contested here. And I'm a little bit nervous for the Wood Elf side, especially just due to the sheer amount of mass coming from the Greenskin side. And now with the front line of the Dryads dropping, the Archers are in a lot of trouble and they'll have to start retreating and then start moving towards potentially point 2 and reconforming their units here.
Yeah, big Wa being popped now as well. There's still quite a few units engaged in melee, so that will help. And that blinded debuff, you see how decisively, I mean, Orc Biggins will always win against Dryads, but I mean, it was just extremely one-sided due to that blinded debuff, and of course the extra damage.
One melee defense.
As well.
One melee defense of the Dryads with blinded. It is crazy. I mean, I think the maximum percentage chance of hitting something is 92%, so they weren't anywhere near that, but definitely had a really good chance of hitting there. Gladelord tried to skirmish around, shut down some of these arrow boys, which makes perfect sense, but you got to be a little bit careful, especially if they get bogged up, because we have things like the fermented fungi to drop the rampage down, but currently there's nothing really that can contest that, because the Orc boys and the ROR of the Orc boys aren't really in a position to cycle charge this one. Definitely can look to do a lot of damage to this Glaive Lord, but it looks like, you know, it's just going to be a case of can we shut down their backline units, summoning out some of these Goblin Wolf Riders especially to try and contest that. So we'll have to wait and see how that transpires, but it looks like a lot of the Archers are in a little bit of trouble, especially with the Blinded coming down.
Yeah, they're definitely the Orc Biggins, those Wolf Riders were able to break through. The Blade Riders respond, and they definitely more superior, should be able to beat the Wolf Riders, but it depends. If the Biggins leadership holds up, they will be able to obviously help, but looks like they are going to rout there. But in the back line here, I'm surprised. I mean, I guess the Orcs have enough tools to respond, but the Night Goblin War Boss is so squishy. I mean, obviously Lord Sniping is not as impactful in Domination, because they can get resummoned, especially a Lord that cheap, but I'd like to see the Wood Elf player maybe try and go for it, or else snipe this caster with the dragon. Just try and terrify away and get rid of one of these characters, because they both have very powerful abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. But it's one of those things where I'm actually really liking what the Wood Elf has brought here. So one thing to comment on the Flesh to Stone, getting that 60% physical resistance, because you know that Greenskins don't really have too many options for the magical attacks outside of the Edbutt, I believe it's called. Pressure coming down on the Glaive Lord, especially in the middle, and the Goblin Wolf Riders and Savage Orc Boys are doing what they can. A lot of weakened infantry in the backlines of the Greenskins that I'd like to see resummoned, because it's not really going to do much. We can see that there's obviously a really large gap in gold value currently, but obviously one of the things that you've got to remember is value to healing never is calculated within that gold value. It's just, if I'm smoking, and that's outside of that, you can't really see it. That's why things like Nurgle and things like that often are deceptive with the gold value. The Fermented Fungi is coming down on the Glaive Lord, and they're going to try and pressurize them, especially with the Rampage here. Nice damage coming through, but very limited anti-large on this side.
Yeah, and the Archers are having a hard time. They're firing through the trees here, these Savage Orc Arrow Boys. And Mangy Marauders also, they're not getting the best contact because they're firing through the trees. A lot of their arrows are not hitting the dragon there, so not going to say it's completely wasted Fermented Fungi, but it could have been a little bit better if he had cleaner firing lanes. But looks like the WoodElves keeping up the pressure now. They are going to have to start, like you said, resummoning, unsummoning units, trying to kind of regain some value here so that they don't get overwhelmed. But right now they're pushing the Greenskins back into their spawn pretty effectively.
Yeah, and that's why the reason, gold value is so deceptive. And you can see that the Glaive Riders of Spears have been caught out massively here. The Big Uns and Orc Boys will absolutely make them mincemeat, but we can see that a lot of the cavalry is still regaining the value, almost full ammunition utilized. And 871 gold value is not terrible, not amazing, but we can definitely see that we've got a cheeky little cap on point 2. I don't believe the WoodElf player has seen there's a couple of these Goblin Wolf Riders trying to ninja cap this one on the back line. Definitely is going to be super impactful if that comes through. Never mind, they just got routed. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
And the Glaive Lord has done a fantastic job.
They're right on point, and now with the WoodElves light cavalry coming through to starting to secure that point number 1. The Glaive Lord's just kind of hanging out for the time being, taking some pot shots from the air, trying to decide where he wants to land, but yeah, right now it's not looking great. Spite of the bad moon, a little bit of extra anti-large on those Orc Boys as they move into support on the Wild Riders, but that Night Goblin War Boss just getting circle beaten by Wild Riders, and then the dragon comes, and then it's all over.
Yeah, you don't want to be in a squig when it comes to a dragon fight, especially. One of the things I'd like to see is getting rid of this Hammer of Gork, because you need things in the front line to protect you here. The catapults really aren't going to do too much, just to get them summoned back and see what we can resummon onto the battlefield. The gold value is definitely starting to turn back into the favor of the WoodElves, especially with the triple cap basically coming through. Significant amount of pressure on the Greenskin side. They're losing a little bit of pressure, especially because of the fact that they had so many of their weakened inventory still on the battlefield. We can see things in the backline here. On the WoodElf side is still very much weakened. Glaive Riders Spears can start absolutely mulching these apart. And we have so much weakened inventory on the WoodElf side as well, but it's one of those things where when you've got the pressure, keep pushing it.
Yeah, I mean, some of these you could maybe unsummon, but like even the way of the Swift Shiver Shards, they don't very low HP. 30 models, though, still with that amount of ammunition can still get some work done, so it makes sense to kind of, the archers at least, let them hang around, but I don't know, I might like unsummon these super wounded Eternal Guard, like they're, maybe, or maybe you just throw them forward and let them die and unsummon them manually that way,
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely an effective strategy when it comes to just throwing them in there. We can see the Savage Rock Boys have now been attacked on the infantry side of things. The Wild Hunters have come through, done a fantastic job of mowing and mopping up some of the inventories here, getting rid of the fungi that is the Greenskins off this map, because nobody likes fungi when it comes to in and around your household. You've got to get rid of that with bleach or whatnot. And you can see that the Shaman is still alive, still kicking with some Edbutts here, trying to clear out, because typically speaking, WoodElves don't really have a ton of armor, so it was a decent pick there, but we can see the Dryads protecting the likes of the Swift Shiver Shards, excuse me. And you are right in relation to the buffs that they received. Some of the WoodElf stuff got a lot more range, especially with the armor piercing that they have available to them. And wow, writing is in the wall. That is another victory for XMT.
Another victory for XMT, and nice to see WoodElves too on domination. The male Glade Lord there, I don't know, I didn't highlight it too much, but he carries the Helm of Discord, which is definitely one of the best items in the game. Massive AoE 24 attack and defense debuff on all enemies, so just synergizes great when you're trying to melee push onto an objective, and worked out very well for him here. The Dryads able to perform pretty decently. Obviously, Swift Shiver Shards being overtuned definitely helps. They get all great value. And then, yeah, on the reinforcements, definitely the Wild Hunters of Khorne, they, like the Fireborn, got their AP values flipped, so they are extremely strong now, and even the regular Wild Riders, I think, had some buffs. They did pretty decently, but overall, great response from the Rex's reinforcements. You want to take a look at Sir Groot's value?
Absolutely. Yeah, so Sir Groot coming in with only a 92 gold value in the Night Goblin War Boss. I mean, when you bring this Goblin War Boss, you bring him for the fermented fungi. We never saw that land correctly. A couple of goblins getting a couple of hundred. Most of the inventory on the Greenskin side never really paid for themselves. Apart from potentially the Orc Boy Biggins did a decent job. A couple of the archers did all right, but then the Hammer of Gork Goblin Rock was definitely helped in the early exchanges, but then they just didn't have the oomph that was required, because you can see from the reinforcement perspective of Sir Groot, most of it's mobility. And there's no capture weight when it comes to mobility. I feel like sometimes, you want to look for those cheap and cheerful engagements, but we never really have anything that was able to contest the Knight, actually the Glaive Lord. But overall, just reasonably decent. So 400 around the board, basically for most of the cavalry. And I just think that one of the most overperforming units within the roster of the Greenskins was, in actual fact, the Goblin Wolf Archers RR 971. I believe that's probably the highest gold value that any of the units got, which is interesting because they were summoned relatively late into it. I think that was potentially pop shots into the Glade Lord, but I think one thing Norexa did a fantastic job of is just not panicked. Just understood what the victory condition was and played towards that exactly to the T. Even though they were down a significant amount of gold value early on, but just their reinforcements came in clutch, especially since they had so much inventory. But let's continue on and find the next one. So this would be VC versus BM.
Let's see here. Yes. Yep.
Right. So I can watch.
Confusingly enough, the player named Von Karstein is not playing the Vampire Counts. They're playing.
Yeah. So we got Sailigator on Manfred. No one likes Manlet, but we'll see. Morg, I believe, on the Von Karstein side. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to commentate, especially like you mentioned, as you rightfully said. The Von Karstein person is on the other side, as we've got Manfred Von Karstein. But I'll wait for this one to come through. I'll pause it at 4 seconds, and then we can start introducing. So pause at 4 seconds, and then I'll play it once you're ready, and we can start introing.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, sweet. I'm going to jump in with the Vampire side. We've got the Dire Pact RR Wolves. Love to see some of that usage, especially with the RRs, the Anti-Large coming in there. Blood Knights coming out as well. We've got the Necromancer with the Forbidden Rod. Great usage of that, especially with the regeneration. Manfred on the Old Dragon, one of the most powerful casters, I believe, when it comes to that. It's the double Blood Knight situation, some Crypt Horrors as well, and a lot of cheap and cheerful inventory when it comes to the side of the Vampires.
Yeah, Skeleton Spears, wildly cost-effective for how cheap and garbage they are, but Centaurs and Throwing Axes, kind of doing some skirmishing initially. We've got two big beasties, which makes a lot of sense in this matchup. Bloodbrute Behemoth, of course, elite anti-large, self-healing, got all the things you need. Incarnate of Elemental Beasts, also pretty decent combatant, has the AoE Drain to help kind of combat some of the passive healing effects of the Vampire Counts. Ungor Spearman Herd, just to pad out some numbers. Mortar can get some spawn summons, which will help kind of equalize numbers, and again, help, since the vampires get summons, why not also bring your own? And then we've got Ray Shaman Lore of Wild with Traderkin, massive single target AoE damage. I mean, single target AoE doesn't make a lot of sense, but like single target damage scaling like Spirit Leech, right? But in an AoE.
Absolutely. Very cost effective as well. It's effectively like a Final Transmutation. Really cost effective for the price.
Yes, it's better than Final Transmutation in terms of cost effectiveness for sure. It doesn't do quite as much damage, doesn't cost quite as much also, but it looks like they're very quickly just going to rush on in. I mean, not else a lot to do.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got some Spirit Leeches coming down on the Incarnate Elemental Beasts, trying to pressurize that one wherever possible. The Blood Brute absolutely smashing on the way towards the Necromancer. I am terrified if I'm this Necromancer. I've been resummoned and I'm resummoning things, but I would not like to be raised again. We can see a lot of pressure dropping down there. It's one of those things where Manfred's going to have to start putting some pressure, goes with the Breath Attack and just seeing what they can do to keep them alive. A lot of things are being pounced on the Necromancer, so I'd love to see some of the inventory and the Blood Knights coming into this absolute carnage fest as well.
Yeah, let's see if they... looks like the Blood Knights kind of getting occupied. Ooh, we got some Minotaur's Great Weapons out on the flank there. They're going to come in for a counter charge and smash it up. Yeah, the Blood Knights kind of getting distracted on these useless flank engagements. Really need to stay focused on their center and be cycle charging these big single entities, but that Necromancer's having such a bad day. Oh man.
Yeah, that's not good. We got the Final Transmutation, the Traderkin coming out alongside with the reduction of speed. So that must have been overcasted. Terrifying levels of damage, 50 to 150 I believe it was, and already perished here. Genius and great usage of the single entities on the Beastman side, but I think the Blood Knights, we definitely called out. It's one of those things where they are exceptionally powerful when it comes to the cycle charging due to the 79 charge bonus. That is such a massive amplification of damage, and sometimes in these situations, instead of going for those blob fights, just looking for the individual cycle charging of those Blood Knights may have netted a lot more value, but the Gorgon is going to absolutely slap Manfred if he doesn't get away from this.
Yeah, and the part of the spawn summons too is that the Beastman spawns give poison, and of course they have great mass, so you can potentially use them to help trap. Like Manfred was at least momentarily trapped from the spawn there before he got pushed out by the Blood Brute, but yeah, just such a great unit for trying to tie down like a flying single entity here. And the single entity killing power, the monstrous power from the Beastmen is just unmatched here. Vampires are having a pretty tough time dealing with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things we need to call out as well, especially with the Blood Knights, is they have hunger. So if you're putting them in skirmishes where they can actually sustain themselves nicely, they will infinitely print value effectively. But we can see the Traitorkin, excuse me, coming down on the Blood Knights, especially with a lot of the pressure that's down here. Chaos Spawn was a great idea, as we've called out, just to blob things down and put a lot of mass here. Cycle charging through the Gorgon, doing a lot of damage. And the thing that's scary, especially due to the strength of flesh while in melee, 0.15% healing, which is quite a significant portion, especially due to the 11k basic HP. Manfred's getting a little pressurized, but we can see obviously the indication of the heck kind of keeping him nice and healthy. Doggos are chasing these Centaurs, looking for a tasty meal, but we'll see how that transpires.
Beautiful
Another summon
block.
coming out, that's devastating.
Oh my god, that brought a tear to my eye. That spawn block right there probably just won the game. It might have, because Manfred had a pretty clear lane to escape. And I do have to call out as well, the Dire Pack have been doing a great job chasing these Centaur, throwing axes around, doing damage to them, making sure they can't really contribute, but it might not matter too much if Manfred gets killed, and it looks like the Dire Pack do come in to kind of screen the spawn. They might be able to spring him loose. The Minotaurs are going to come for a side charge, but he just barely gets back up into the air just in time to avoid that. So Manfred survives for another couple of minutes at least, but we'll see where things go from here.
Yeah, we've still got a couple thousand that Manfred can actually heal up here, but the Centaur throwing axes are doing a great job of skirmishing Manfred here, so we can't have him stationary like this. You need to keep mobile, you need to keep moving. One of the things I often say when I do beginners tournaments and tournaments like this is simplify your victory conditions. Yes, the dire walls are fantastic, and what they're doing in this army overall has done a really great job, but are we overemphasizing the the dire packs to try and look for those skirmishes? Well, we have really, really massive cost-effective units like Manfred, and we obviously have the Necromancer and things like that. It's like, how do you balance, looking for simplifying your victory conditions and looking for things that can really make a massive difference there? Yeah, but as we can see, just a slap into Manfred as to,
Ooh, gets swatted. Swatted out of the sky. I mean, I like the snipe attempt there. That was a good opportunity attack to try and get rid of the caster. Just didn't quite get away in time, and as soon as Manfred goes, the rest of the army just instantly crumbles. So, as a known vampire hater, I have to say, I appreciate this outcome.
I mean, one of those things with vampires is it's like, I think that one of the issues that I have often with vampires is it's kind of like anti-fun. For me personally, like, it's a blob. It's like, what can you do to uproot them, excuse me. Similar vibe for like Nurgle and things like that, but there's definitely things that you can counteract there. But I am a big fan of them in general because they've been nerfed for so long, so it's nice to see them back in the limelight. But equally, Selinator, one of those things where the Blood Knights, only one of them got 1.1k. The other one got 251 here. We needed to look for those cycle charging. I don't know if you agree, so I'm happy to discuss this. But for me personally, in that scenario, when you saw the Necromancer kind of being charged in, if you have your Skeleton Spearmen to try and blob up, put summons there, and then just bring those Blood Knights to try and cycle in continuously, just to try and shut down these single entities. Because if I'm honest, the Gorgon and the Incarnation of Elemental of Beasts die very quickly when you have that insane amounts of injection of anti-large plus charge bonus. They would have died very quickly with those cycle charges. So what else do we have? Manfred's on a 1.6k value. Necromancer only popped in with 152. Obviously, the Zombuanis aren't going to get too much unless you're Helmand Ghost, but that doesn't really count in multiplayer. Skeleton Spearman's got a decent amount of value. Like if we said, the Dire Packs did a great job with 1k value, but one of the Crypt Horrors actually came in 1.2k value. But yeah, what's your thoughts? If you were in that scenario, would you have tried to look for isolations, especially since the Gorgons and the Elemental Incarnates of Beast was, sort of isolated by themselves?
Yeah, especially on that initial push through. Like, once they had time to sort of develop that push, you had like the monstrous infantry, like the spawn summons and so forth. Once those were able to assist, it would have been a little bit hard for the Blood Knights to get in, but especially in that first, minute or so after they engaged, you could have had some opportunities for some rear charges. I also think, speaking of monstrous infantry, like, you could have maybe used the Crypt Horrors more as like blockers. Basically just switch where the Crypt Horrors and the Blood Knights are. Use the Crypt Horrors to block on the flanks while the Blood Knights support the monsters in the center, basically. I probably would have just switched those two. And I don't know, from a build perspective, I also would like to see maybe a little bit more passive healing from the vampire counts. It's basically impossible to protect Mortis Engine against a build like this. But you can almost use that to your advantage, where like here the corpse cart actually could have been great bait. In like you see your opponent's trying to focus hard to take that out, right? You can then allocate your own resources to try and counteract that to a degree. But definitely a fun game. Shall we go to the next one?
Absolutely. Yeah, I just wanted to call out that the Gorgon had 3.3k value and the Incarnate Elemental Beast had 1.9k, alongside the Mage having 2.1k. So incredible usage of the elite per se inventory slash anti-large chest that was coming out there. But we've got the SL versus Nor.
Yeah.
This is Slaanesh versus Norsca.
Yep. Loopy, longtime friend of the channel, is in chat here today also. He's going to be playing...
Oh, Loopy, Pog.
Slaanesh, yes.
Nice. Love my boy Loopy. Let's see. Very similar build. Triple Fiends, Chaos Knights, Furies that we often are seeing. But Nakari often isn't picked because of how expensive Nakari is. But I suppose fantastic option if we're going against Throg. Can look for those isolations, and also if Wolfric puts himself on a mount of some description too.
Yeah, the biggest thing to avoid here, as I pause it 4 seconds, is just to avoid those Hunter Javelins, because they will shred Nakari in seconds. So you gotta, but you definitely have the speed to avoid, as long as you can stay on top of your micro.
Do you want to count us in, and then we'll intro them?
Yeah, let's do a quick 1, 2, 3, go. And I guess since you started on Nakari, why don't you finish up with the rest of Slaanesh?
Yeah, absolutely. So we got the triple Fiends of Slaanesh coming through. Fantastic at those isolations with Devastating Flanker. Tons of these devoted Marauders alongside the Hell Scourges. A bit of a hybrid there just to look for each and every one of the opportunities. Obviously, Hell Scourges are fantastic against infantry, and the likes of the Spearmen against anti-large. The double Fiends, Furies, excuse me, coming through. And yeah, over to you.
Yeah, for Norsca, very fun faction, sort of unloved. They've been too long without any updates. But for this build here, we've got a mess of Marauders up front, including some Champions who are quite sturdy and decently strong. A couple of Javelin Hunters, some Thamir, and Ice Trolls, and Skin Wolves. So we got a nice kind of grab bag of monstrous infantry. Ice Wolves in the back, yeah, Skin Wolves, Wolfric the Wanderer, and what's the caster here? Lore of Metal, Shaman Sorcerer, rocking Plague of Rust and Searing Doom.
Yeah, I just saw 10 seconds ago where Searing Doom jumped out to try and hit any of these infantry, but Loopy definitely utilizing his ability. While the Chaos Knights of Slaanesh in the flank here, the Lancers version of it, they got a massive buff, so it makes sense to be seeing the Lance variant, especially with the charge bonus. It's actually kind of incredible. Skin Wolves need to be very careful since they are super duper squishy, so they could very quickly deal with that. One of the problems that I have as a player learning multiplayer in recent times is over-rotating. It's definitely one of those things where you've got to be really careful not to over-rotate your inventory here. And I feel like since there's a bit of a battle of mind games coming out, you know, Loopy's going for these cycle charges on these javelins, making sure that they aren't pressurizing anything. And he is baiting them like crazy, which I'd love to see. Bringing in the Fiends and then pulling straight out. Loopy's teasing his opponent here.
Yeah, it's almost indirect scouting, right? Like, okay, I know you've got some stuff hidden back there, so let me, like, threaten some things and see what comes out of the woods, right?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's really smart play. We can see the Chaos Knights are now looking to flank around, especially since they've a little bit of scouting, like you rightfully said, has been happened. So now let's see what the Chaos Knights can see. Obviously, a couple of targets like the Ice Wolves, for example, definitely could be multi-shot very quickly, but you've got to be careful, especially because the Frostbite, that would slow you down significantly. Blobs up in the middle, and most of that actually was friendly fire towards the Mortal Champions. A little bit of a mistake on the Norscan side there. Got to be a little bit careful, especially where you're dedicating your magic to.
Really nice play by Loopy, too. Just to kind of like see that. It's a pretty quick uptime, Searing Doom, so to be able to like pull your units back, have the presence of mind to almost like pull Wicked into it, I think is a really, really nice play on Loopy's side. But I don't think it'll end up mattering too much, as those devoted Marauders and the Fiends just kind of, you know, they're like, okay, you know what, who cares about champs? Let's get into those squishy bits in the background.
Yeah, a beautiful cycle charge when it comes to the Furies, dropping in on these Javelins here, trying to shut them down. The Lances are now here to save the day, so the Furies and the Skin Wolves and Marauder Champions are absolutely devastated with a beautiful charge there. Fun fact, collision damage can do up to 70 damage, and 70% of it is AP, so a lot of the Marauder Champions took a bit of an L there. You know, the Spearmen are coming through to try and join this absolute cluster of a fight that's going on in the middle here. Tons of units are starting to rout. The Fiends are still holding on, which is surprising due to their stat line. Spears are coming through as well, and the Fiends are trying to rout the things on the right-hand side with magic coming down on top of their heads as well.
Yeah, you can see the one Marauder was routed in all that big mess, big massive scrum, and I don't even know what happened to the other one. Yeah, also getting routed here, just getting wrecked by those Lance Knights. So, from sort of a win condition perspective, right? In land battles, oftentimes the win condition is specific units. And here, you know, for N'Kari to stay alive and operate successfully, the javelins are by far the most threatening target, so to just get rid of them immediately out from the outset definitely makes a lot of sense. We see now Narcissism being used on the Skin Wolf that was kind of responding and threatening N'Kari. He's now going to get crushed on the charge by some Lance Knights.
The Shafiric Musk alongside the Willing Prey as well. Basically 0-0 stat line, by the way. That is disgusting. Alongside the Soul Siphon coming out of N'Kari as well. Anything that is in the process of routing will take an AoE Mortis Engine at the same time. You know, the Metal Mage is trying their best to throw out spells where possible, but the flanking charge of the Chaos Furies alongside the Chaos Spawn, the Fiends of Slaanesh doing a fantastic job shutting down these ice walls and the skin walls on the side here. Definitely once they start getting more active, they can look for the other engagements here. Beautiful cycle charging coming from Loopy. Definitely utilizing the speed and the patience that is required when playing a faction as squishy as Slaanesh.
Definitely. And using sort of the new tools to best effect, right? These fiends here, just doing a great job supporting, you know, their damage, their speed, especially when they're saturated in with infantry like this. You think about, you've got poison and soporific musk, so basically just enemy units all around are just gonna be worse fighting, right? And it's a really nice combination. I've been seeing a lot recently, actually, of people like stacking contact effects, right? Like for vampire counts, right? You take an ethereal unit plus like a ghoul type unit, so you get poison and frostbite, like minus 45% speed passively. It's absolutely nuts. But yeah, little Hunter of Champions here on N'Kari before he charges on in. Not gonna matter too much as Wulfric is being circle beaten by fiends.
Yeah, 1,000 weapon strength, by the way, when the Witsealer's sword comes through. Makes perfect sense as to why that was picked, especially because of the fact that, you know, the isolation of that N'Kari can do, especially with the speed, is pretty damn insane. Oftentimes, you know, I was surprised that Wulfric was the flavor of the month here. Would you think Throg would have been better, especially because of the cost, potential cost effectiveness that Throg can be, but GG's.
I think, honestly, Wulfric on a Mammoth would have probably been the best. Even with the build Slaanesh had here, like Slaanesh generally doesn't have great tools for dealing with big, nasty single entities. So I actually think, and I know this because I had talked to Wicked about it, actually. This is the one game I had sort of talked to someone about, but he also admitted, and I think Loopy admitted as well, that like, yeah, like double Mammoth, like single entity spam could have given this build some problems, and it probably would have been Wicked's best chance to win. But yeah, like Wulfric on the Mammoth with maybe the Warshrine Mammoth for physical resistance and
leadership as well, right? And the
leadership, yes, would have been very impactful.
Pretty insane. Yeah, I mean, let me just jump in for the Slaanesh side. N'Kari came in with 1,100 gold value. So definitely not paying for themselves. The reverted Marauders coming in with about between 100 and 400 gold value there. Chaos Knights Slaanesh, especially with their recent buffs, performing exceptionally well with 2.1k gold value. The Furies coming in with about the cost that they are. But then it's one of those things where their entire job is to shut down any of the javelins, as we rightly called out to begin with. Fiends coming in with 1.6k, 1.3, 1.4k value. Yeah, these Fiends are unbelievably terrifying. The thing that surprised me the most on the Norscan side is there's no skirmish cavalry to try and play the skirmish game against the likes of the Slaanesh units. I don't know how well Marauder Horsemen, especially the Horse Masters, I mean, I would imagine they would cause a lot of pressure for Furies without them being able to do much. But if you want to jump in with the Norsca?
Yeah, Norsca, I mean, looking across the values here, most things are under what you would want. I mean, the Marauder Spearmen, and even getting crushed as they were, the Javelins, still pretty much able to pay for themselves, which just goes to show how strong of units they are. But, yeah, I don't know. Maybe single entity spam, or maybe missile spam also, like you said, like going with like 6 missile cavalry plus like 4 Javelin infantry, and then you just have a bunch of roadblocks scattered around, basically, to try and slow things down as they get skirmished down. I mean, hindsight 2020 would have worked probably against this build, but obviously there are other Slaanesh builds. If they go with, you know, mass light cavalry of their own, could punish you pretty hard for that. So it's a little bit of a mind game for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things where hindsight, as you correctly call out, is 2020, and you can never predict as to what units are going to be coming through. Because obviously we're commentating and we're judging when we've seen the armies, so it's easy for us to say, oh, this would be good, this would be good, but it's mind games between these two players, especially because they don't know what each other are bringing. So it looks like we've got Gentle Rat versus Pog. We've got the Chorfs versus Tzeentch. I'm going to watch this replay and jump into it.
Yes.
So we got the Gentle Rat versus Juicy Wang. Interesting name from the Tzeentchian side.
Absolutely gorgeous.
But it seems like such a common thing for the Chorfs, especially to go super cheap and cheerful when it comes to the laborers and all that kind of stuff. And then you got the triple blunderbuss, triple fireglaves. I think that's a Iron Demon. We'll have to look and see when we jump in.
Yeah.
I'll
it's
pause
interesting.
when I'm in at 4 seconds in a second.
Yep.
So 4 seconds.
Same. Let's go ahead and 1, 2, 3, go. And
absolutely. Jump in for the Tzeentch if you want, because I've just talked about Chorfs.
Yeah, Centaurs of Tzeentch out on the flanks. We've got some Zangors. They're trying to hide in the woods, but I don't know if they're actually hidden. Centaurs over there. Metal Sorcerer. We've got Shrieking Sky Rays. The Regiment of Renown, Lord of Change. Very interesting. The Golden Griffin of Thurgy. He's not a griffin. He just calls himself that. He's Exalted Hero of Tzeentch. And a Chaos Lord of Tzeentch. We've got some Marauders there, so... Yeah, the Tzeentch's deployment is very interesting, very unorthodox. He's spread all over the place. My guess is we're going to be looking for some... does he have a caster? Oh yeah, it's over here. Lower metal caster. I was like, hang on. If Tzeentch didn't bring a caster, that's actually insane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess just going to be trying to maybe kite with some spells here, trying to do some skirmish. It's almost like Tzeentchian Beastmen in many ways, just... You know, obviously with the Centaurs, but also in sort of deployment and usage, it seems like they're going to be playing a very unorthodox, kind of uneven style.
Yeah, great punish with the Searing Doom there, especially since the Chaos Dwarf player is trying to over-rotate a little bit to try and accommodate for what's here. One of the biggest tips you can do is you can actually see how many units the opposition has. You know, when you hover over the balance of power alongside, sometimes it tells you, you know, what they've actually deployed in the battle itself. So you know that you're not against a super, super wide Tzeentchian build, so always try and avoid over-rotating your units, especially since your backlines are so expensive, because the Tzeentchian player can just go for some insane skirmishing when it comes to the likes of the Searing Dooms into your backline expensive units. You know, the Iron Demon, there's not really much that can really pressurize the Iron Demon, so as long as it can keep mobile and nothing can shut it down, should be really, really nice there. Beautiful punish of these Screamers of Tzeentch. My goodness, great turnaround with the blunderbusses and the fireglades, just absolutely annihilating this unit, crumbling, already destroyed. That's about 1,000 gold value, absolutely thrown out. And alongside the, oh my goodness, the Chaos Sorcerer of Tzeentch coming absolutely slapped as well. Yeah. It's one of those things where the Tzeentchian player is playing very, very much disjointed between all the units, and these range units are putting in absolute goddamn work.
Yes, they are. They are getting some serious damage done, and I mean, of course, the Fireglaves with their bayonets are anti-large in melee, so even charging into them is not necessarily going to help. But yeah, the follow-up from the Centaurs is just a little bit behind, and there's not a lot of volume of follow-up either in terms of like Furies or anything else. Like, although the Golden Griffin pick is very cool, we see him dueling in the air against the Sorcerer Prophet of Fire. I think it would be better to just have numbers of stuff that can tie down those ranged units and sort of execute a rush all together at the same time. Right now...
So now the Centaurs are actually breaking through this line, but I think the short player definitely needs to start pulling back. They've got tons of laborers to protect them here. Yeah. And obviously a lot of these backline units are getting punished, but in this situation, pull the Lord back and start getting active in these fights here. Throw down some spells, throw down some things that can put some pressure down. And we can see that obviously the blunderbusses are going to be starting shooting the Chaos Lord. The second this Chaos Lord goes down, obviously the leadership across the board is going to be impacted, but we can see that there's so many units in the backline here for the Chorf player that it's so difficult to know where to charge and where to put your units. Zangors have actually pulled through across from the forest, definitely coming out, being nice and scary, actually getting active in this fight. Were definitely blobbed up in a fight that they didn't want to take, because a couple of hobgoblins and laborers were able to shut them down and keep them from entering the battlefield, but a great Searing Doom in the middle of the map here.
Yeah, and it's, yeah, those Centaurs, I mean, they ran in, and like I said, the bayonets plus, like, the turning to focus fire by the Chaos Dwarf player here, they were able to push back that mobility push fairly decisively, and it's going to be a quick victory for the Chaos Dwarfs.
Yeah, really smart play for the Chorf player, not over-rotating, not panicking too much, knowing how many units they're against, and just basically putting himself in a situation where if you come anywhere near me, matey, I'm going to shoot you until you perish. And perish they did. A lot of the units from the Tzeentch side took a lot of damage prior to being able to be engaged. The Centaurs and the Zangors weren't able to protect them, and exceptionally powerful and costful units weren't able to get into the backlines and be active when they needed. But yeah, unbelievably good play by the 12th player. Loved the fact that they went triple blunderbuss, triple Fireglaze, because any of those units getting the moment of uptime will absolutely dominate. And dominate they did. So Fireglaze coming in 1.3k gold value, 1.3k on two of them. Fantastic paying for themselves. Fireglaze 848 on one of them. Blunderbuss 2.2k, and you can tell 100% that's the one that shot the Lord. 700 and 400. It's one of those things where if you bring three of them and you expect one of them to do well, they do well. You know, if any of them are in a scenario where they're shooting, the Sorcerer of Profit coming in with the 1.2k value, but that was mainly just pressurizing the Zangors. The armor nerf and I believe the melee defense nerf that they received definitely doesn't put them in a situation where they're powerful. On the Shadows of Change release, they were unbelievably good, especially with the 80 armor. Now it's 50. So obviously Burning Head and things like that puts them in a little bit more of a pressure. All the front line, not really much to comment on. They were basically just holding the line for as long as they could with the cutthroats. But do you want to jump in with the Tzeentch?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot here.
Not much to talk about.
Yeah, not a lot of bright spots here. Most things just kind of struggled to get value. Again, I do like the pick of the Golden Griffin. I don't totally hate it, but at the same time, the Lords have changed. The base unit's not wildly cost effective, so I think it would have been better to split this out into more numbers of like Furies or, you know, other units that could help with that mobile pressure and getting on some of those ranged units. So let's go. Now
Are we? I know we're doing live in 5 minutes. So, what do you want to? How do we want to play this? Do we want to go? Do you want to do one more replay and then we'll do live games, or
yeah, let's do one more. That'll kind of give them the chance to get the lobby set up and get their like picks and everything figured out a little bit. But should we jump in with the F Pod versus Alfredino? Or that one's domination.
Absolutely.
Let's actually, yeah, it's domination. So let's actually maybe go to Empire versus Grand Cathay, and we'll save that domination.
I've already loaded in. Let me jump out. It's fine. I can jump out quickly. In fairness, domination, as you rightly called out, is very, very. It's a much longer fight. So let me jump out in this one. Give me a second.
On average, domination games definitely are a bit longer. So
yeah, for sure. Some fantastic games here. So that was another ODM win. So is it currently 3-4?
I've got 4-2.
4-2. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself then.
No worries.
All right, let me jump out of this one. Battle, and let me load into it. What was the one you wanted to load into?
It was Grand Cathay versus Empire.
And which one was that one?
It was Hadriz.
Cathay, and EM. Yeah.
Yes.
Watching replay now.
Yeah.
Right. Very interesting competition coming out of the Empire side. My goodness, it's so common to see Steam Tank plus Jade Wizard here.
It is.
It's almost comical at this point, you know, especially just because of the fact that it's so unbelievably good to keep these guys alive. There's not really a crazy amount of things on the Cathay side that can put pressure down here. I'm going to pause in at 4 seconds, and then you can jump it counters in.
All right, let's give it a 1, 2, 3, go. Yeah, the Steam Tank, I mean, it's just a menace to society right now. There's not a lot of units in the game that are really good at killing it, besides, like, shooting in the back with armor-piercing missiles. But, yeah, I'm getting a little bit ahead. Why don't you finish up with the rest of the Empire build here?
Yeah, absolutely. Triple Pistoliers, it looks like, coming from this side, as long as it's at the triple Empire Knights. So it looks like a lot of relatively skirmishy units coming through. But we've got Karl Franz coming with the Deathclaw, with the Blood Raw. Super nice alongside Galmaraz. So if any of Miao Ying especially transforms to the Dragon, Karl Franz definitely has the answer. Pistoliers can start getting active over here. We've got the Spearman, Swordsman, and that rounds it up.
Yeah.
Over to you.
Cathay getting involved already. Miao Ying charging in. We've got the Jolly Green Guardian. Looks like Righteous Lances of Wei Jin, some Onyx Crowmen up in the sky also. A bunch of halberds, regular sword Jade Warriors, some Peasant Archers for Missile and Harmony. And the Empire going to be rushing straight on in. the same tank. Let's see the angle it approaches to attack here. Looking like it's going for a nasty side charge. Ooh, that cannon shot right down the line, too, of those Jade Warriors as it charges into the side there. Beautiful, beautiful engagement, perfectly angled. Yeah, Carl gets engaged by...
Yeah, the Empire Knights coming around the outside, trying to put pressure on these peasant archers. Definitely the Cathay player needs to react and make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Lots of damage coming through. Steam Tank just absolutely mowing through. The Green Sentinel is taking a significant portion of damage. It's getting double teamed by the Celestial Lion, but Franz is holding fast, especially with the healing coming through his way. Just Regrowth is coming out from the Jade Wizard, which makes perfect sense. Just to keep them active, keep the vigor there. Pistoliers being super annoying. Especially if they're shooting away from the 55-meter range, they will not, the projectiles won't reflect, so they need to make sure that they're actually shooting at range. And anytime you're skirmishing like this, you want to make sure that you're re-targeting things. Tons of damage from the Sterling's Revenge.
Oh, yeah.
Beautiful RR armor-piercing damage there. And the Onyx Crowman is starting to chase down potentially the Jade Wizard here. Nope, looks like Karl Franz.
Yeah, you can see the Green Giant, honestly, like, obviously he's not fast enough to pressure the Pistoliers. Could run at the Sterling's Revenge and probably would be fast enough to get, like, close enough that it could reflect their shots. But now, oh, maybe a little bit of a micro slip by the Empire player here, letting the Jolly Green Giant get in range for those Pistoliers. You can see he does shut off that fire at will pretty quickly, though, so they're not reflecting their damage back onto their faces. But, yeah, that Green Giant getting a little bit of healing to sustain is going to stay in the fight a little bit longer, but let's see how long he can hold up. That Sterling's Revenge got a mean bead on him right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit one of those scary moments because Miao Ying's got Earthblood, and in the isolations like this, Karl Franz is perfect with Gal Miraz there. Super scary for that to come through. Empire Knights, I think, are on the back line as well, so would love to see them getting active, but you can now see that the Celestial Line is trying their best to try and put pressure on Karl Franz here, but the Pistoliers are all raring and active. Healing's going to be coming down in a second, but it's only an Earthblood, so it's only 0.8 healing here. The other cast obviously increases the duration, not the healing. Steam Tank just absolutely mowing through the inventory here. There's not much they can do to kind of keep them down, but the Celestial Line trying to trade blows with Karl Franz right now.
Yeah, the Righteous Lances trying to continue pressure on those Empire Knights, kind of rear charge them, are now also supporting this engagement, but that does mean also they're going to be taking AoE burst damage, steam burst damage, I should say, from the Steam Tank, which does get its cannon shot reflected directly back into its face due to the Green Giant, which is, I mean, the Green Giant being able to stay alive now has been super important. Does that Earthblood hit it? Yep, just barely on the edge of that area of effect. So should
this is what we want to see from the Green Giant as well. You know, the Green Guardian coming in and just trying to get active on the Steam Tank. The Steam Tank really can't do much. I feel like the Green Guardian is a perfect counter to it, but Karl Franz looking for those skirmishes and looking for the situations where they can indeed shut them down, which is a great idea. Pistoliers are being chased by the Jade Warriors, but they have no shields and they have no opportunities to do much there. Now we've got the great longer riders coming along with the Celestial Line as well. Karl Franz obviously in a bit of a pickle, so he decides to just dive straight in there. Surrounded by Jade Warriors, so I'm not sure if that's the right decision making from the Empire side, because we're going to need support regarding the regrowths, but I mean the Jade Wizard is literally right there, so I'm not too worried, especially since that the regrowths can come through. This blob fight looks terrible, but in actual fact, it shouldn't be too bad, especially because there's, you know, very limited anti-large, and the ones that do have anti-large have just been routed off the map. Yep, or just been routed off the skirmish site. We can see the Pistoliers coming around, just skirmishing all the miscellaneous Jade Warriors and Halberds and things like that are there, so not really too much scariness, and the Empire Knights coming through with a huge charge.
This late game, the Pistoliers can definitely be transitioned into chasing routing units if they need to. Like, there's a lot of kind of tattered units that aren't quite routed yet, but if they do get routed, the Pistoliers can just easily chase them off. Carl, it looks like is going to be able to escape. Maybe. Gets caught up by those Onyx Crowmen a little bit, and his escape is sort of foiled to a degree, but yeah, the Steam Tank moving in to help support Carl, and now direct rear charge into the back of the Celestial Lion does massive damage. The Steam Tank, honestly, even though it's an anti-infantry piece, the charge bonus and the weapon strength is sufficient that if you charge single entities with it, it actually can help. And like there, it was able to block a lot of the models from getting in contact with the Righteous Lances and the Halberds, for example, so Carl took a lot less damage just because this Steam Tank is literally tanking for him. But now with him able to get away, looks like he's going to perhaps look at pressuring Miao Ying here. A little bit more healing from Miao on herself to make sure she stays healthy. Sterling's Avenger almost out of ammunition as well, which means the Green Giant actually, a lot of the threats to it are being removed slowly as it manages to stick around here. Another regrowth on
I think
Carl as
it's
well.
Yeah, the thing that surprised me the most is when is Miao Yin going to go Dragon and start contesting the sky here? Because alongside the Celestial Lion, one thing I really like want to call out is the Fearsome Brawl removes immune to psychology, but unfortunately for them, Cal Franz has Terror, and he cannot remove that, and that is the reason why they weren't getting the Terror thresholds coming out. But we're relatively dead even here. We'll have to wait and see how the Steam Tanks can keep themselves alive, because obviously the Green Guardian is still here being an absolute nuisance. In the early stage of the battlefield, I feel like if the Green Guardian was pressurizing the Steam Tank when it was trying to mow through the inventory, could have been a different story. But right now, Miao Ying is trying to run into the inventory here, be a bit of a nuisance. But if you go with a bit of a death box situation with the Pistoliers, Miao Ying can very quickly get pressured off this point here.
Yeah, and Carl was able to pick the Celestial Lion 1v1 in the air, route it off, and now the Jade Wizard is chasing it. So one single entity threat removed, and that means that if Carl comes down to engage the Green Giant, he's going to have a lot better of a time. He's not going to be fighting, you know, 1v2 or even 2v2 with the Steam Tank involved, but even still, just getting rid of one of those single entities makes all the other single entities that much easier to kill. And as we say that, Meow transforms. It's going to go full power here to try and fight it out.
Yeah, I feel like it may be a little bit too late in this situation, because Miao Ying had so much Aegis on the battlefield, you know, in dragon form, but I feel like Cal Franz kind of was getting away with murder, especially while he was cycle charging the Green Guardian. So I feel like if they were, you know, fighting together, but Miao Ying's now trading blows, really good stat line, because you can't forget that Cal Franz's melee stat line on the Blood Griffin, the Death Griffin, what it's called, I can't remember, has very limited stat line, and so Miao Ying would always win this skirmish.
Yeah, and he popped Galmaraz there, but evidently didn't want to risk taking too much more HP damage, didn't stick around in the fight. I guess now in the air, maybe he wants to seek this engagement a little bit more where, oh no, Carl charging the Green Giant, interesting. Yeah, another regrowth on him. I guess that's going to give him the confidence to move in and try and finish that engagement. As Meow targets the caster, that's going to kind of bring her away a little bit and buy Carl a few more seconds to do maybe a couple more attack animations. Pistoliers, a couple clutch volleys right there. I have to say, Pistoliers are one of my favorite units in the game, so I'm glad to see them. Haven't been as good in Warhammer 3 as they have been in games past, but nice to see them performing quite well here. It looks like, yeah, basically paying for themselves on gold value, so, and tactically also being very useful. But Carl, risky engagement for him as he gets caught by Meow there on the ground.
I mean, he's hit healing cap here. That is a depressing thing for the Cathay players, especially seeing a healing cap coming through, but obviously we can see that Miao Ying's now trying to chase off the Pistoliers as well here.
Yep. The Green Giant's also just about been heal capped, but now facing its crumbling, gets the last few volleys in its face and falls very gracefully. And now it's just Miao Ying versus both the Steam Tank and Carl. That's going to be a lot trickier, and the balance of power definitely reflects that at this point.
Sorry for the interruption if I am. My headset's just died. I'm just changing headsets.
Oh, no worries. No worries. I'll keep it going. Yeah, Steam Tank shots here. Land on Meow up in the sky. A handful more Pistolier shots. They've got, what, 3 more volleys? And one of the reasons I like Pistoliers so much is their missile damage is very good. They don't have a lot of ammunition, but 2 shots per volley, 2 AP per shots, 4 AP. It's like pretty equivalent to a Javelin, honestly, in terms of damage output. Obviously, they're not nearly as good as Marauder Javelins in melee. And Javelin Horsemen, I should say. But yeah, Miao Ying gets hit by the Steam Tank. Main cannon there. It's enough to damage her leadership and force army losses. There's yeah, victory for Calamity. As an Empire enjoyer, definitely like to see that. And the Steam Tank, 300 plus kills, 3,000 damage value. Yeah, just crazy good stuff there. Here. So it looks like they do have their lobby open, so we'll go ahead and jump over into that in just a moment. But yeah, finishing up here at the, oh my, look at the Sterling's Revenge, got like 3,000 damage value. Those armor-piercing Free Company, man, fighting in melee, using their pistols to extremely good effect.
Yeah, really smart pick there. I feel like it's one of those things where, like Slayer Pirates as well, they do so much damage in range, you just don't expect it. But great uses there. So that's, we're currently on ODM on 3 and XMT on 4. So let me just come into the multiplayer lobby as well.
Okay.
And this is called ODM. That's the one. Let's spectate. Gone with the El Clasico password as always, and it works. It just seems to be an unspoken rule within multiplayer.
Super secret.
Absolutely. So we've got Beastmen versus Greenskins here. So we'll have to wait and see how this transpires. I definitely think in this situation, Beastmen have a lot of options, especially due to how many units were buffed. Oops, I will have to go click over there. And so we'll see when the Greenskin players jump on in and ready themselves up. Slow Jira is obviously doing one of the most important things in deciding which banner he will represent as the Greenskins here. And I can't recall the exact name of those, but we've got interesting Skarsnik. Wow, I'm gonna have to start talking about this one. Skarsnik alongside a double giant on the side of the Greenskins here. Super skirmishy for the Greenskins. That's really insane.
Yeah.
Triple snotling wagons. I can't remember the exact terminology.
Yeah, the flappers. The fast ones have a little bit of extra charge bonus. But yeah, like no infantry for the Greenskins. That's wild.
I think that is a statement to be said. You know, that is a lot of confidence from the Greenskin side to bring a composition like that. That is so much macro requirements there. So I massively respect it. We can see, obviously, let's just jump into once again. We've got the Snotling pump wagons coming in with a lot of damage. Obviously, significant armor piercing alongside the Forest Goblin Spooters, alongside more Snotlings. Just the Swamp Things coming in with the -6 melee attack because of the overwhelming odor. Akin to that of the Nurgles, alongside Skarsnik with the fermented fungi. Really nice uses there. And the Orc Shaman has the Brainbuster this time, alongside Here We Go for the +40 melee attack. Going to jump in with the Beastman side.
Yeah, let's see for the Beastie Boys. We got a nice line of Ungors up front, some spears and hand weapons mixed. Centaurs, 2 on each flank of Tzeentch with some regular Centaurs on the one flank. On both flanks, actually. And a Gorgon, just regular non-ORR Gorgon. 3 Ungor Raiders and Malagor up in the sky. He's rocking just Flock of Doom. Super cost-effective damage right now, especially over time and against multiple units. Against cavalry and infantry especially, so I really like the pick here. Although, it's mostly going to have to be used on skirmish cavalry, I think. Like, looking at it,
yeah,
I'd probably go after the Spider Riders with that Flock of Doom. I mean, it's not like their damage is actually that impressive. And Gojira did bring a lot of those Spider Riders, so I'm kind of worried that he's maybe not going to have enough DPS here, but maybe the Giants will be enough. Maybe the Spider Riders are really just support for the Giants to kind of help screen and poison stuff. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to be very interested to see how these guys utilize their builds. You know, we've got super single entity damage coming out on the side of the Greenskins alongside tons of just skirmish. So yeah, we can see how many melee infantry. That's 2 units of melee infantry with the Night Goblins and Orc Boys on the Greenskin side. Tons of very cost-effective, cheap and cheerful infantry on the Beastman side, alongside a ton of Centaurs of Tzeentch. So there's tons of damage on each side, so we'll have to wait and see if the skirmish Forest Goblins can deal with the likes of the Centaurs of Tzeentch. Obviously, they've got barriers, but they're super squishy, but, you know, the longer the game goes, the more tired the Forest Goblins become, the better the Centaurs start being, especially with the Rowdy.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, the Flappers are such an interesting choice here.
Absolutely.
Let's see how they do against the infantry. I mean, knowing that Centaurs are going to be such a prevalent piece, regardless of who's facing the Beastmen, Centaurs are just probably the best light cavalry in the game, like pound for pound right now in terms of cost, especially the Centaurs of Tzeentch. So, I mean, Greenskins, you kind of think about, like, they don't really have a lot of great direct counters for Centaurs. Their anti-large infantry is good, but you kind of have to, like, ask politely that the Centaurs please engage your biggins. Like, you know, you don't have... I was just going to say, you don't have a lot of direct answers. But yeah, a little bit of Flock of Doom there as those Spider Riders skirmish. Let's see what they can do.
Yeah, the Snotlings not looking to get active just yet. They're still biding their time, waiting to see what the best skirmishes are to look for at this point. Malagor's coming in, flying over. There's not really many things in which the Greenskin player can do to contest against the likes of Malagor. But a whole 1 gold value. We're scaling up now. Shots into Malagor, kind of shutting them down. Poison coming down to slow them. But skirmishing happening now. Skirmish cavalry going in with the Forest Goblins, and Snotlings are now starting to get engaged, looking to get active in the front lines.
Ooh, maybe a little bit of a feint.
Like.
Cool. Little faint charge, now actually committing to the charge once the Centaurs also do. The Centaurs are going to get countercharged by the Spider Riders and actually take some very cost-inefficient damage here to those very cheap Spider Riders.
Yeah, I feel like one of the things to mention as well is Scarsync just gave them a ton of anti-large, so they're really, really cost-effective in this situation. Flock of Doom obviously coming down to do a significant portion of damage, but if they can get away from that, that'll be nice to see. But one of the things that is probably a bit underrated is the fact that they do a lot of range damage at the same time with these Snotland pump wagons, but we'll have to wait and see if they can get out of this horrible situation with the Centaurs. But you can see, here we go, potentially might be coming down from the Greenskin side, and it has indeed. Tons of damage coming out to start trying to trade, but in a situation where we're outmanned, outgunned, it may be very difficult to utilize the plus 40 melee attack that's just been blessed upon them. So over in the middle, we've got the Gorgons versus the Giant. I think the Giants definitely have a really good opportunity to start doing some damage here, especially because the Gorgon has such limited melee defense.
Yeah, well, and the Giants are much cheaper as well, so even if they trade evenly, it's an extremely cost-effective trade for the Greenskins. Swamp Thing's also kind of punching back to the backline, isolating themselves a bit, though, as they go after those Ungor Raiders. They're going to get hit by multiple Centaurs countercharging and likelier to be shut down here, but let's see if some of the Spiders maybe can come in, screen for them, support, maybe body block some. They also do have those Orc Boys in there as well, so it's not all completely hopeless. If they can stabilize
the Fermented Fungi.
Fermented
Fungi and the Gorgon, which is a massive situation to put a lot of DPS in here. Scarsync unfortunately doesn't have his AoE anti-large, probably not as much damage as they might have hoped for, but as we can see in the middle of the map, since there's no inventory, there's nothing holding back these Tentacles, so I'm a little bit afraid for the skirmish requirements of these Forest Goblins now, so we'll have to wait and see how that transpires, but a lot of the things on the right-hand side is going well for the Greenskins, but a lot of pressure coming out from the Tentacles in the middle of the map, potentially looking to cycle charge in the likes of the Giants now.
Yeah, both the flanks are going decently well for the Greenskins. I mean, the Centaurs now are kind of getting distracted. They're chasing the Spider Riders, which is exactly what you want. No barrier, chasing the Spider Riders, just taking passive, very cost-effective damage. Looks like the Swamp Thing has kind of switched over to help fight the Gorgons, but they're being punished to a degree for it right now. The Giants are also trying to push through, but just getting bogged down in those Ungor spears, so maybe the Greenskins
the scary thing for the River Trolls, especially because of Gorgon, I believe the damage that the Gorgon will have will probably one-shot each River Troll it hits, so you've got to be really careful when it comes to that. But the Terror coming in handy, routing out a couple of these units, especially since they do not have, I believe, because it depends if they have Primal Fury or not for the image psychology. Getting very scrappy right now because of the way the Beastmen are playing. Yeah,
the Shaman also, the Orc Shaman got isolated there and beaten down by the Centaurs. And yeah, the Greenskins, they, I think, kind of just need to rally a little bit to the Giants, bring all their forces together and just try and operate, because right now, spreading out, I mean, it's to a degree, it's working in the Beastmen's favor. Like, yes, you do want to probably use those Skirmish Cavalry to just lead as many units away as you can. But ooh, little interesting little body blocking cycle, like side charge there from the pump wagons into the Centaurs. You wouldn't really think like, yes, chariots, I should use these against cavalry. But when it has high charge, high models like that, and especially if you can catch your opponent not charging, the Centaurs were fully flat-footed there. That was a really nice engagement. And the Fungi on the Gorgon once again, getting engaged on 3 single entities, all of which are going to do a lot of damage to him between Scarsync and the 2 Giants. So, Gojira's...
Skirmish Gorgon wants to be in here.
He's behind on the balance of power, but he's definitely scrapping right now.
Yeah, this is a terrifying prospect for the Gorgon. Definitely still healing from Strength of Flesh, but you don't want to be in a situation, especially with the War coming down. Great disengage coming out from the Beastmen there. You do not want to be in a situation where the Greenskins have that amplification of the War. Just overall does a significant amount of damage. The Beastman is actually starting to look for a flanking situation to kind of engulf all of the units that are remaining for the likes of the Greenskin. So I like to see it, you know, like you called out, the Greenskins are now trying to fight around the Giants, but the Beastman has identified this as such and said to themselves, okay, well, I'm going to hit him with a wraparound.
Yeah, for sure. And you see a lot of the Spider Riders are starting to run out of ammunition. And, I mean, value-wise, I don't know. Their damage is so low that a lot of them won't have ended up paying for themselves here, even though they were getting some pretty good skirmish engagements. I think right now, Greenskin Skirmish Cavalry, like the Wolf Riders have some extra models. They do a little bit more damage, but the Spider Riders, well, they used to be one of the best light cavalry in the game. I'm not as big on them now as I used to be.
Yeah, I feel like Marauder Horsemen and things like that definitely are always super fantastic. But it's very interesting to see. Obviously, the regeneration on the Death Creepers here, but unfortunately, they're ramping up the map currently. We'll have to wait and see if they rally, if the Centaurs can keep chasing them. Because if you guys aren't aware, anything that has the white flag above their head, if you can just keep something really close by, it is impossible for them to recover. Although with Terror Rounts, it is possible to recover even if you're being chased once your leadership recovers. Giants fighting alongside the Gorgon by themselves, not a situation that the Giant wants to be in, especially in a 1 versus 1 there. Fermented Fungi coming out on Malagor to try and get active onto him. Definitely a lot of damage can come down here if Skarsnik has the Spite of the Bad Moon.
Yeah, it looks
nothing
like
really coming through.
Centaurs, the Ungor Raiders, though, have a nice little bead to contribute some extra damage against that Giant right now. The other Giant is actually trading all right against its Gorgon and Centaurs of Tzeentch, so it's definitely in a bad situation. We'll probably end up losing out there, and it's looking like Gojira is headed towards army losses here, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a great build coming out there, but GG's on that one.
Yeah. Can't fault him for pump wagons. I mean, I respect the choice, and I think they actually did pretty good, honestly. So let's check the value on the pump wagons. Yeah, one of them paid for itself. The other one of them got close, one of them not so much. So a little bit of a mixed bag. I just think, honestly, the Spider Riders were the biggest kind of whiff here in terms of pick. Both the melee and ranged Spider Riders really didn't contribute anything. And I think had they been swapped out for basically anything else, like maybe Wolf Riders, and you take like Boar Boys, or even just some more Goblin Infantry, or I don't know, maybe some Fanatics.
This is the reason why I would love to see Forest Goblins get a little bit of love in the next DLC, but it's one of those things where they do not follow Gork or Mork, so I think it might have a hard time giving them units that are akin to Forest Goblins, maybe in the future. But yeah, like we rightfully, rightfully mentioned, I mean, the Swamp Things having terror definitely helps, but the Giants definitely seemingly pay for themselves. Everything else on the Greenskins side was just a couple of situations where the pump wagons did a great job, but overall on the side of the Beastmen, just the Centaurs of Tzeentch. There was not really anything that could kind of match them, because in the situation where you're getting kited with the archers or the forest goblins, you can just regenerate your barrier and just go for round 2, right? You know, it's one of those things where ammunition is consumed, but your health is not diminishing. But overall, a great build coming out of the Beastmen, kind of covering a lot of the bases there. And that will be ODM taking the win on that one.
Yeah. We'll update that for the scoreboard. That's our one live game for the day, right? Or did we have another one? It's just the one, right?
I can ask, and we'll see. But yeah, great play coming out of that one. It was very interesting to see, especially with the build that was pulled out. I mean, it's super skirmish heavy. Loopy's jumping in now, so it looks like I think Loopy and Wicked might be playing.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
if I'm not
remember
mistaken.
some discussion about Loopy and Wicked also doing a live game, so we'll let them join in also. But yeah,
it sounds good.
Wild matchup for sure. Greenskins versus Beastmen is a matchup that's definitely evolved quite a bit over time. It's been kind of back and forth as to who has the advantage. Right now, I'd probably give it to Beastmen just because Centaurs are so strong. They're so good. But yeah, the Greenskins cavalry, the light cavalry historically has been some of the best, but these days they just don't quite measure up. Like Wolf Riders, basically, they still fill a role, but Spider Riders could definitely do with a little bit of a buff.
Yeah, I think it's a friendly match, it seems.
Okay, so it doesn't count for points towards the win total, but will be a fun watch nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm assuming a Wicked is Baguette Mold.
Yes.
What a great name there. We'll have to wait and see how that goes.
I'm going to leave you with the chat here for just a moment. I'm going to go grab a drink of water, and I'll be right back.
No worries. So, we'll have to wait and see. It looks like potentially Brettonia coming out from Loopy. Baguette Mold is going with the Beastman. I've just got my puppy on my lap right now, and she's craving attention, as always. When I do some things like this, when I talk a lot, I think it'll be one of those fun things where she always wants attention. And we're looking for Gal Baraz here, it looks like. Gal Baraz multiplayer. That is the map of choice. Yes, so I believe that ODM clan is predominantly French, if I'm not mistaken, and so Shout out to Loopy for hovering the Brettonian pick there, as you know, Brettonia is widely considered French, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Empire is considered like German. I'm not sure who's the British ones, if there's any representation of that one. But maybe WoodElves versus Beastman matchup, the Battle of the Beasts. Looks like one of the players is BB. British are the ogres, British is Kislev. Okay. Let's never read chat again when it comes to answers like that. But I think, yeah, we're going to have the Beastman. Oh, I really do like the changes that you can pick a ton of the banners coming for the likes of these factions. Definitely changing the color schemes. One of the really coolest things, honestly, was the color scheme changes. I really like it because obviously the banner that you wield is the color of your army's armor, which I often like. For me, the boys in blue. Do not shame your ancestors, brethren. As you can probably tell, I like the dwarves. And Belegar for the boys in blues, always is the colour scheme that I'll go with. But we'll
Right.
have to wait and see. Welcome back.
I'm
We'll have to wait and see
returned.
what Beastman picks.
I heard you talk
It looks
about
like
color schemes, very important. For me, I like the very clean kind of black and white color schemes. Like there's quite a few for like the high elves, even like or Azag's faction for the greenskins, right? Like I don't know, like black and white and gold. It just looks very classy somehow.
yeah. Yeah, I really do like the colour scheme situation. It's always a pleasure. But I think with I can't remember how many replays we've still got. We've smashed through 7 games. Are you ODM 3, XMT 4 right now?
Yes, after the live game I'm 4-4 actually.
Oh, you're 4-4. Roger that one. Good point. So it's very, very even. Even Stevens on this side.
Yeah. Yep, for grabs still anyone's game. We've got a few more to get through, so we should be good,
Yeah,
making great
absolutely.
time today. Probably, I'm guessing we'll probably end around 3 hours. We'll have to see how quick. Just depends on how quick some of these other games are. I know we've got like an FFA and a 2v2 to cover still, so see how things progress. So
Yeah, it's one of those things where they can last a long time. Oh, looks like I have to ready it because I'm the host, but yeah, let's jump in there.
okay.
Good luck, have fun to these guys. You know, like we mentioned, this is a friendly game, but it's always good to get live matches in there, so we'll have to wait and see. Torok's coming through with a pretty wide build. It's gonna be wild magic. You already know Traitkin is just too good not to take. Zangor's flavor of the month alongside the Centigores. Oh, the RR. I can't remember the name of them because I literally never see them. The dude
Cygor,
that locks
yeah, you don't see
Saigo,
him
that's the
much
one.
in Warhammer 3. They were a staple. Oh, so we had a little disconnect or something. As-
I did. I'm loading it now. Oh yeah, we
Oh,
did. Is it just redoing the lobby?
I'm not sure. Now I'm at the lobby screen. Oh. Yep, I think it's
I can
waiting for
crit.
everyone else to get booted. There we
Oh
go.
yeah,
Yep.
that was decent. That's a classic. So there's as part of live games, we need to expect the desync situation. So all right, let's cheers. Let's get these boys hosting another one then, shall we? And we'll just join them. That game was
Yes.
fast. Yeah, that was a swift battle. That these guys threw hands very quickly with one another.
So
Oh, so the
fast, didn't
Steam
even see
Summer
it.
Sale for Total War is still on until the 11th of July. So what are you going to say?
Just so fast, we didn't even get a chance to see it. But
Yep, absolutely.
yeah, the Cygor, it's interesting because in Warhammer 1, Warhammer 2, it was a good piece in a number of matchups. And like for me personally, I love taking a Cygor and then taking like a bunch of mobility and like roadblock, like Ungor Spearmen, basically just so that you like spread them out and then your Cygor like gets lots of time to work. It's great against
Hmm.
factions, especially that rely on like infantry, or like if you think someone's going to take some elite halberds or something against you, it can punish someone who's like, oh yeah, beastmen are going to rush me with a bunch of monsters, so I'll just defend with halberds, and then all of a sudden you're getting rocks thrown at you. It's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. So I've just joined in as a spectator. I'm sure these guys can jump in. The lobby's just opened up, matey. So yeah, Loopy hosted this one.
I'm in. I'm curious to get your thoughts about some of the UI updates. Like for me as a caster, especially, like the changes to the stat breakdowns, right? So like when you mouse over a stat now, it's like, oh, this is +10 from frenzy, -5 from this passive debuff, and +20 from this active buff, or whatever, you know. Like it gives you an actual breakdown of all the different effects, modifying a specific attribute or trait. So for me, that's been amazing, an amazing change for sure.
Yeah, information is power, and especially in these situations where you don't have long to look at what it's doing, anytime it breaks it down as easy as that is always a plus for my side. But on the WoodElves side, we see some great Stag Knights, the Wild Riders, the Glaive Rider Spears, a bit of a variant here. So the Tree Play Dryads alongside the Wraith of the Frozen Heart. And then a significant portion of cavalry coming through, honestly. How many cavalry units is this one? It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cavalry units on the WoodElves side. The British Ramp at the back with this pendulum, which is interesting to see. I guess especially with a lot of the inventory that's been brought along for the Beastmen, definitely will pay off there. And if you want to jump in with yeah, we've got Orion as well. Orion can definitely do a lot of damage, especially with the likes of the charge bonus of 60% in the AoE. So really nice to see there alongside the Hounds of Orion.
Yeah, Orion got a weapon strength increase, I believe, on the last patch as well, if I'm not mistaken. So he's a little bit more effective of a melee combatant. I mean, 550 base weapon strength with 15 bonus versus large. Of course, he also gets Frenzy and Unbreakable, so he just has permanent, you know, +10% everything, basically. +10 melee attack, plus extra weapon strength, charge bonus. So he's quite a beast.
Oh, and he heals a tons and gets a massive injection of ward save. Yeah, Orion seems like an absolute pain in the nuts to try and take down here.
Yeah,
a lot of resistances, a lot of damage overall, and I mean the Beastmen really have very limited ways to deal with Orion, especially. As long as he's positioning himself correctly here, he should be able to just pop shots and be an absolute nuisance.
Yeah, that Cloak of Isha activates when he gets low, but which means he can get killed by bursts sometimes, but it's pretty hard to do. And if he's just like, you know, being hit by lower tier stuff, like often it's not enough to break through that Cloak of Isha, and he can just, it's like, oh, he's almost dead. Like, yeah, I don't have to worry about him. Nope, he's going to survive almost dead for the entire game because of that Cloak of Isha. But yeah, for the Beastmen here, that Eye of Morslip, Regiment Renowned Cygor also has a hard snare in Warp Gaze, which is quite good for limiting your opponent's mobility, obviously, controlling the battlefield. We've got the Regiment Renowned Centaurs with Throwing Axes here, Ungor Raiders, a couple of Sangors there in the center deployed, Taurox, love to see. Flaming damage especially is going to be quite relevant here. Bray Shaman Lord Wild, some Harpies up in the sky, some more Centaurs. Yeah, Taurox, love the pick.
Yeah, you very rarely see him, so it's nice to see Taurox coming in here. Obviously, a significant amount of strength in the melee, so if you can get a hold of the likes of Orion, I'm sure he can pop shots. But the Wild Hunters have already taken a massive beating regarding the rock lobs, especially with it magical damage. You know, bypasses all physical resistance, so tons of damage come through on the RRR there. They're going to try and get active in the battlefield, trying to squeeze past, but it looks like they're going straight for the Zangors. Orion may be looking to try and throw some shots into the likes of the Zygor here, but absolute carnage on the other flank here as well with the Harpies dropping in onto the cavalry, but the Ungors holding the line currently.
Yeah, I think realizing now, like highlighting Orion, I think they actually re-enabled his 360 shooting that he had in late Warhammer 2. I don't think it was ever properly implemented, but I see now his firing arc at least is showing 360. Whether or not it's actually working correctly, I guess we'll have to watch and see if we can, but he's going to kind of get bogged down by the Harpies there as these Ungors engage in the front line, but a nasty rear charge coming potentially from these Stag Knights, and Horn of the Wild Hunt active at the same time as well. Oh man, those Harpies just disappear.
Yeah, Taurox is trying to start protecting these Harpies, but it's a little bit too late. Let's see if Taurox can actually do some damage here, but we've got to keep in mind that Taurox is anti-large, or he's large, and Orion has a decent sizable chunk of bonus versus large, so he'll have a lot of damage. Tridikin coming down, so obviously a lot of pressure from that. Not many units, excuse me, trying to pressurize the Cygor, but the Wild Riders say nay. I am here to do that. A Pendulum coming through on the infantry. Dryads are doing a great job of holding down a lot of the Zangors here. One of the things that don't get talked about much, but when it comes to a situation where you're holding a lot of gold value, sometimes just losing those engagements and then utilizing that gold value in other positions of the map can obviously give a significant advantage. You can see the Beastmen are just a scrape ahead on the gold value, but we'll have to wait and see how we can translate the way that Orion can deal with the likes of Taurox here. Great Stags coming in and trying to pressurize, but we'll have to wait and see how Taurox reacts to this one, especially with all the cavalry that is currently engaged here.
Yeah, and we might see a Warp Gaze on these Stag Knights if he has one available from the Eye of Morsleep, just to kind of pin them in place. Then that allows him to pull some stuff back and kind of reallocate some resources to burst them down. But Harpy's actually charging in, going to get some really cost-effective damage into the back of those Stag Knights. And
absolutely,
yeah, I mean, single entity fight, maybe the Eye of Morsleep just runs in and helps fight Orion in melee at this point, and they go 2v1. Or even 3v1 with the Bray Shaman running in with the back shank. But I'm not sure if Wicked wants to take that engagement. He might be looking to just disengage Taurox and kind of use these pieces in a different fashion.
Yeah, outside the brass body, I don't think Taurox wins the fight against the likes of Orion, so we're going to have to be really careful with where the skirmishing occurs there. We can see on the right-hand side of the map, or left, excuse me, we can see that the Glaive Rider spears have been routed off, especially with all these Centaurs molding together, trying to help each other out. A lot of weakened infantry dropped with Traderkin, so the Beastmen really finding opportunities to utilize those spells really nicely. Branch Wraith is coming towards the centralized of the map. I mean, we definitely have Orion and the Bray Shaman on their own here. Interesting decision that they're going to ignore the Bray Shaman, but it looks like the Dryads have said nay. Start putting pressure there, but it allows the Cygors a little bit of a room to breathe, but we'll have to wait and see as to what kind of level of pressure that can alleviate. But you can see the Cygor just starting to run away still, not really looking for shots, trying to get the max range. I mean, calibration distance is a thing, so if you're shooting below your 75% of your range, you're a lot more accurate, but we can now see, well, I'm going to hope to see that the Cygor is going to turn around and start popping shots, but still not looking to do anything just yet. And while this is happening, you know, their Ungol Raiders making charge in the backline, turns around now to try and look for those skirmishing.
Taurox also getting just smashed by Orion also while he's trying to get that free. So I don't know, I think Wicked actually his best chance was maybe to take that engagement with Taurox and the Eye of Morsleep together, just because Orion's such a scary combatant. Like, everything besides that is not going to be enough, right? So but at the same time, if you allocate too much resources trying to kill Orion, then the rest of the army might just kill you. So it's a very tricky situation to be put in, for sure. Credit to credit to Loopy for like developing this whole situation, right?
Yeah, definitely getting super skirmishy. Orion's trying to take some pop shots. I mean, in this situation, you'd like to see the Cygor even just getting melee, just start getting active. You know, be a body to help Taurox fight there, especially with, you know, splash damage being a thing, especially if they're close to one another. You know, Orion will do significantly less damage into the likes of Taurox here, but range coming through. And obviously the Rock's doing an absolute devastating amount of damage to the Wild Rider RR here. But the Branch Wraith is moving forward to try and put pressure onto the likes of the Cygor. A lot of the cavalry is also doing this as well, with the Dryads moving up. You know, the writing's on the wall a little bit here. The likes of the Chaos Warhounds are trying to protect Taurox away from the Glaive Riders, but you can see a devastating charge into the likes of the Cygor here. Yeah,
Cygor is definitely in trouble, and Taurox's leadership is low enough that he can't really come help at all. A little Earthblood there, and it looks like actually they're just going to send the Wild Riders to try and finish off the caster, which makes sense. We see another Traderkin going down before he gets charged. And actually,
yeah, what I like to see from Loopy as well is he put a preemptive Earthblood on the rest of it, on all those units that were charged, just in case the Traderkin came through.
Yep.
A little bit staggered on the Traderkin, but that has gone through and started to rip apart some of these units. But a lot of these cavalry of the Great Stags are super, super weak, but they're still active and fighting. We can now see that the Dryads are starting to wrap around to try and get active into this fight. We know there's no Traderkin available to them, and now the Bray Shaman is starting to rout off the map.
Yeah, this balance of power is surprisingly even, I guess just because the Eye of Morsleep still has so much HP left, but I feel like it's being extremely generous for the Beastmen right now. I mean, Taurox is gone, the Bray Shaman's gone, and yeah, now it's starting to tell a little bit more in the WoodElves' favor. That makes a little bit more sense. The Eye of Morsleep is strong as it is. Not going to be able to hold out against all of this stuff. I mean, granted, it is finishing off some of these cavalry units. You can see the Wild Hunters there. route. The Stag Knights kind of disengage.
I mean, the Stag Knights just don't have the leadership currently to kind of go into the Cygor, because the terror route almost instantaneously comes out.
Yeah.
Especially if they go on to entity contact. I definitely think as we start to see the Cygor taking a wee bit of damage, their balance of fire is going to shift as we have been seeing. It's juggling around a little bit because the Cygor is going to get a bit of damage to the Brand's Wraith, but at this point in the battlefield, with everything so weakened and everything so, getting to the point where it's very skirmishy, any hit coming out of the Cygor will definitely start to make that balance of power move. We've seen the Ungors have just routed off, and the Dryads are just starting to look for them. The Wild Hunters as well, trying to reactivate into the fight here.
Yeah, once Orion gets in the fight, though, I mean, this is going to be all over. The big hunter is going to hunt the big beast, and I feel like, oof, this is so appropriate right now.
Yeah, Orion is, in lore, is an absolute savage as well when it comes to the wild hunts. Definitely hunting down the beastmen. He has an extreme hatred for the beastmen, so he's showcasing his hatred and demonstrating that he is the wild hunter here. It looks like the army losses just kicked in, and tons of damage coming through there, and GG's to Loopy.
Yeah, GG's. It was a friendly, so again, doesn't count for the purposes of the outcome of the clan war, but still a fun game. Glad we got to see that, and yeah, impressive stuff, actually. I'm not sure. I should say I wasn't sure about the Race of the Frozen Heart. Generally, I think the WoodElves RORs, like, you just don't have the gold to take them, usually, but these ones actually do pay for themselves. 200 kills, 13,000 total damage with 800 gold value, just slaughtering some beastman chaff. And yeah, overall,
I feel like they would trade nicely into the Zangors, right?
Definitely would, for sure. And Dryads just in general are a pretty good trade into beastman infantry. Like it's like Zangors and up will do okay against them, but even like the Zangors here kind of getting charged by the Wild Riders also. Just, all hands on Loopy. I think maybe only like 1 or 2 of his units didn't pay for themselves, but really all across the board, really nice value.
Yeah, great usage. But GG's to those guys. So, are we going to jump into another run of the replays? You want to call which one you'd like to see?
Yeah, let's go to that domination one that we had skipped over. That was F-Pod versus Alfredino.
Let's get it. Watching replay now, and I'll pause at 4 seconds.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Alfredino, I've seen him in the tournaments before. Going with Kairos. It's a bit of a shame Kairos no longer has regrowth, but as I'm sure you can agree, having regrowth on him was disgustingly overpowered, so it's good that he doesn't have it anymore.
Yes, it was disgustingly overpowered. He's still extremely strong because, of course, they take away something, but they give him something else, right? And now Blue Fire and all magic missiles that have multiple shots will actually spread, right, and impact an entire line of infantry or like an entire line of cavalry, impact multiple models rather than just overkilling one spot. So, of course, that makes his Blue Fire spam, which was always great, even better. So there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. I have paused at 4 seconds. You want to count us in? You can jump into the Lizard one because we've kind of given a brief overview, but I'll jump in a little bit after for the Tzeentch guys.
Sure thing. That's a 1, 2, 3, and go straight to that big old Slaanesh. I've also got the Solar Engine. I've come around on Solar Engines. I wasn't big on them, when Immortal Empires came out and throughout Warhammer 3 so far, but that change now where they have an AoE Vigor buff is pretty good. And like you said, with the calibration distance, if you're taking shots at reasonably close range, it's accurate enough that it can still land enough hits that it can get some value. And of course, the blinded debuff is also incredibly strong. So it has a lot of utility for sure. We've got Rev Crystal as well, so the healing Bastildon variant. Bunch of Saurus warriors here. Looks like some skink cohort jabs. And yeah, basically Chameleon Skinks already getting charged by those Centaurs. Why don't you kick us off there?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the Tzeentch side, gone relatively cheap and cheerful with the frontline units, but most of them are RRR variants. So we've got the Sour Guts, we've got the likes of the Chromatic Abominations, Blue Horrors, Double Flamers, and the Centaurs of Tzeentch that we've seen alongside the Shrieking Sky Rays. Definitely very scary, but a ton of damage has come through onto the Centaurs of Tzeentch, getting punished a little bit for their cycle charge into the likes of the Chameleon Skinks. Wasn't too worried about that, especially because of the fact that they are poison, so they can really get disruptive here. Potentially might see that the Scrimmers of Tzeentch go for a cast onto the Saurus Warriors, but not too good, especially since they're relatively armored. Completely dominating 0.3, 2, and they have 0.1, so they've got a triple cap situation going on here. Lizardmen have positioned themselves onto 0.1. The Flamers are now trying to get themselves into the middle of the map. Obviously, as we've called out, we've got a couple of solid range units in the Solar Engines. 240 range, can definitely take pop shots to the likes of the Flamers, but you've got so much control in point 2 right now with the Blue Horrors. Such a terrifying prospect for them to walk through. Obviously, the Saurus Warriors are shielded, so definitely not as much damage as you may have hoped for, but the Centaurs of Tzeentch in the backline are routed off there, but we've gone with a nice cheeky little Psycho Charge in the middle here.
Yeah, the
Flamers
not, a
great
lot
damage
of,
as well.
not a lot of response for the Flamers right now, and so that DPS is going to hurt the Lizardmen infantry pretty significantly. We do see some Salamanders, the Umbral Tide Regiment of Renown, moving in. That'll help against the Flamers, but oh man, there's just not much immediately to punish them, and that is going to hurt.
The Salamander hunting pack.
Yeah.
My god, just half HP the Flamers here. You know, we did call out the fact that there wasn't any counters, but the second that came through, the second that Rage is coming through, especially with the solar engines, the Flamers have been punished massively. This is something that you did not expect in the slightest way, shape, or form, and already they are crumbling and down for the count. Fantastic punish on the Flamers of Tzeentch.
Yeah, got their unit
brilliant.
card up before they were gone. They only got about 200 value. But let's see if the time they've got buys enough time for these other Flamers to get their work done. The damage looks impressive, but looking at their gold value, I mean, one of them has got about 350. The other one's not even broken
the VFX
200 yet
animations. Yeah, the VFX animations I want to call out look absolutely sick, and it looks way more scary than it actually is. Like, we're seeing these insane casts going off, attacks going off into the likes of the Saurus Warriors, but doesn't really seem as much as a threat as you may consider to begin with, because yeah, the Flamers aren't getting a lot of good high-value targets.
Look at this, though. Gaze
Flamers
of Fate plus
the
Shrieking Sky Rays. Just Gaze of Fate to snare the Umbral Tide. The Shrieking Sky Rays use their anti-large AP. Move down into melee. Rev Crystal. Yeah, Rev Crystal try and sustain them, but we'll see. It's kind of both good plays on both sides. The thing about Tzeentch, if you invest too much into flying, you'll get punished pretty heavily because flying units don't have any capture weight. And the Lizardmen, we're starting to see some Feral Cold Ones come out. That's a great mobile unit to kind of pressure here. You could even send one of them to, like, quick cap number 3, potentially, if you wanted to apply some point pressure here. But right now, the Lizardmen going to be retreating some of these units. Umbral Tide might also have to get manually withdrawn here. But looks like the Saurus Warriors are done there. And yeah, those Flamers, the one unit was shut down very quickly, but these others have been able to stay alive. This one's got about 900 value so far, so pretty good stuff.
Yeah, the thing that scares me the most is when it comes to Feral Cold Ones, they're so cheap and cheerful that you can kind of really get into the backlines and be disruptive. I think the Flamers may just need to fight in melee. There's triple Flamers. Oh, the Rampages come through. The Rampage token coming in at 75% HP is a bit unfortunate for them. But it looks like they're just saying, do you know what, I'm going to attack the next best target, and they actually are. They're going straight to the Flamers, even while Rampage. So that's not the micromanagement coming from the Lizardmen player. That is just quite literally RNG. And we can see the Cold Ones are still getting pressurized, but they're soon to rout off the battlefield. Rampage or not, you are indeed routing. You cannot recover from that.
Oh, wow, those Flamers just completely friendly fired their own unit pretty severely there. I don't know if you caught that. That was extremely brutal. But one thing FPod's doing here is he's moving his Bastildons down to objective number 2. Try and gain some extra control there. They're also something that can just push through and body the Flamers pretty hard. The armor and they're weirdly sized, like they're kind of smallish at the same time, so like the Flamers don't hit them very well. And as you can see here, the DPS, I mean the Flamers, 2 units basically, not even doing much on that Bastildon, so they're great tanks here to just occupy space.
Yeah, absolutely, and we can see a couple of the miscellaneous units, the Skinks on the point 3 coming in from the Lizardmen, trying to get that capture in there. I think you rightfully called it in that, you know, the Tzeentchian player has gone for exceptionally powerful units, but they are super expensive, come with the Chaos Knights of Tzeentch, but I'm still terrified for the fact that the Solar Knight can definitely, Solar Engine, excuse me, can pop shots into there, do a lot of damage. Flamers are trying to retreat in the middle of the map, but did not get it off because the Javelins started throwing on them. But you can't retreat units or bring them back into the pool when they're attacked. And we can see that the Pinks, yeah, there's very limited capture weight here. The Zangor's gone towards point 3 to start contest that, but Karis really can't do much. I would love to see some Blue Fires coming in to start pressurizing these single entities as well.
Yeah, FPod does need to get some caps going pretty quickly, though. Right now, he's at risk of falling into a position where he would need to get a 3 cap. Not quite there yet, but the
Screamers of Tzeentch, sorry for interrupting here. Screamers of Tzeentch has not been active for about a minute here. After getting the hunting pack, so I'd love to see them getting back into this one, because you need to make sure that any threat that you have on the battlefield is active, and the Screamers of Tzeentch can do so much damage to some of these entities here. So we'd love to see them start to move back into the middle of the map here.
Yeah, a little bit of a tactical reserve, as I like to call it. It happens to me sometimes where a unit gets off on the edge of the map in a corner somewhere, and you just forget about them completely. But the Chaos Knights go on quite a run here. They're, despite taking so much damage, they do manage to make contact with the Umbral Tide there. And despite FPOD having a pretty good advantage on damage, positionally, Tzeentch is able to keep control here, although it looks like... Ooh, it's real close now. What's the 1,500 ticket limit? I don't know. FPOD might still need to try and go for a 3-cap later if he can. Right now, though, he's staunched the bleeding, which at least gives him some time to develop. See if he could potentially leverage this this advantage here. But the Flamers, once they do start to actually focus fire, and at close range here, you can see the accuracy is much better. They can actually hit the Bastiladon, and that Solar Engine's getting hard punished.
Yeah, absolutely. Really nice focus fire there. Fantastic usage. A couple of flamers. One of the flamers on the outside here has 0 ammunition, so I'd love to see them getting resummoned. Chaos Knights in the backline have actually become reactivated, so I'd love to see that into the cycle charger there. Finally, the Screamers of Tzeentch are now starting to move back in here. Definitely can clear out a lot of this inventory. A lot of the heavy commitment regarding the Centaurs have also come back in, and the Zangors moving towards point 1. Maybe it was indeed a tactical withdrawal of those units. But you can see the Saurus, I don't think shields affect against Flamers, so they'll still push through that nicely. The Pinks definitely putting pressure onto the Cold Ones. Getting into the backline of the Flamers, a little bit of a misplay there, especially with the likes of the Salamander Hunting Packs getting into pressure range. But Kairos is definitely trying to get the Bastilons routing off, maybe just utilize the Screamers of Tzeentch to make them and give them that premium service of the Chauffeur. But we'll have to wait and see. So the Sour Guts in the middle also doing a lot of pressure here. You know, in this situation, it seems that the gold value is starting to crawl back to the Tzeentchian player, and the Tzeentch player has the advantage from a capture point. What in this situation, what are you thinking about to try and recover this for the Lizardmen?
It looks like, I mean, Tzeentch has committed some forces. You pretty much lost number 1. You could try and pile in some more to take number 2, but like Tzeentch, you can see how quickly they can bring in those Centaurs to reinforce that objective. Yeah. So it's definitely tricky.
Crazy.
Lizardman's ability to quickly reinforce and sort of get space clawed back, right, is going to be a lot tougher. That amazingly strong light cavalry for Tzeentch just gives them such an advantage here, whereas like the Pharaoh Cold Ones, as cheap as they are, they're not as nearly as impactful, right? And they're also not Vanguard, and they're not as fast, so they're not going to get into the battle nearly as quickly. And so I think Lizardman's going to have a hard time maintaining their position here. Even if they were to keep the gold value lead, probably would struggle to win, actually, because Tzeentch is just so much better on positioning.
Well, the army ability Storm of Fire has come through as well, which is so unbelievably surprising to see, because of the fact that it's so expensive, the points. You need to cast so much to get that. So I'm interested to see, instead of trying to like hunker down on a point, it's just been thrown out, and then obviously the terror routing coming in from Kairos. Great way to do this one. The Zangors slapping the Saurus Warriors in melee. Obviously, Saurus Warriors are typically speaking considered one of the best tier 2 inventory in the game, but the Feral Cold One's getting absolutely mulched by the Centaurs because they just can't trade very well, especially with the reduction of entity count there. Centaurs of Tzeentch on the other flank as well have just got free reign into their range units, but so squishy, so much damage has come through the Kimian in Skinks. Chaos Knights of the Tzeentch are in the backline for the Lizardmen, but not doing too much. And the Screamers have definitely given that Chauffeur experience. The triple cap is a very likelihood, and very scary for the Lizardmen because they have very limited ways to come back into this one, as you rightfully called out. You know, a lot of their inventory and a lot of the ways that they have to try and get pressure is limited. And yeah, the Flamers of Tzeentch has been such a fantastic, interesting adaptation, potentially. I very rarely see as many Flamers of Tzeentch like this. Normally you see the Changebringers, I think they're called, and they're just super, super annoying to deal with, but so expensive. And obviously, as part of bringing expensive things, you limit the inventory you can bring, so fantastic usage of the Flamers, honestly.
Well, and not to mention, too, Lizardmen also have pretty strong flying tools, so taking the Changebringers against Lizardmen is definitely a risk. Like, it can pay off sometimes, but I feel like in Domination, too, in this map, where you can get the regular Flamers in decently fast, and you can amass them in great enough numbers to get that, you know, critical mass, so to speak, of range damage, where your opponent just can't really approach. And I think that's basically what we're seeing here. These Flamers on the center objective just continuing to roast up Saurus. Nice little quick terror out from Kairos to get them off the field, and it's looking pretty good.
I wonder if Saurus Warriors taste like chicken.
Yeah, you know,
I mean, we've got Kairos Warrior here as well.
I
Would
have
Tzeentch even
had
eat them?
rattlesnake
I don't even know.
sausage, so I'd imagine it would taste. I don't know. I mean, meat tastes like meat, but like reptile meat, I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like everyone, if you don't know what it tastes like, just say it just tastes like chicken. And most of the time, it's kind of right. I think Skaven, we probably need to speak to a resident Skaven player to have an understanding as to what various things like that taste like. But yeah, definitely a really dominating performance from the Tzeentch player, playing towards victory conditions, although the gold value does not reflect the way that this positioning has gone through this domination battle. Yeah, a triple cap situation like this is not a nice scenario to be in. You know, wow, the Storm of Chaos, the army ability I think it's called, has just gone onto the back point in the middle there. Really, really smart play by Alfredino.
Yeah, basically just
in one of the tournaments I did a long time ago, he was a great player as well.
Yeah, he's a very strong domination player for sure, and yeah, I mean it's just like an area of effect kind of zone of control, right? Like, okay, don't summon anything in there right now. We did see skirmishers come off the Vanguard summons. They didn't get hit by it, but yeah, not looking great for FBOT. He throws in the towel there, and that will be another victory for ODM.
Yep. The crazy thing is, we went 0-4 for XMT, and now we're 5-4. So we've had 5 ODM wins in a row, which is crazy. There are Uno reverse card that has come out. So on the side of these Tzeentch, I'll just jump in it real quick. We've got the likes of 1.3k gold value per Kairos, which is kind of expected with the Blue Fires being a massive nuisance to a lot of inventory. Because what people really underestimate, one of the values of Blue Fire especially, is killing inventory. When you kill entities, their DPS is significantly reduced, and that's what we saw all of the times. The Lizardmen didn't have really full HP inventory to start trading up. Centaurs of Tzeentch, about 900 gold value a pop. The Screamers of Tzeentch also coming in with 1.4k. The Sourguts 1.1k, love to see that. And now one of the Flamers had a 1.9k gold value, 1.2k. Blues did a great job of 400 and 800 apiece. And then the reinforcements of the Centaurs did an all right job. Marauder Horseman was in the reserves, but never used, so it's interesting to see. We got the likes of the Flamers with 2k, and we got the Flamers, the other Flamer, excuse me, on the reinforcements was 1.5k. Although I'm not sure if any of them were redeployed and bought again. But we can see, yeah, definitely a lot of gold value coming out for the likes of some of the powerful Flamers there.
Yeah, the Flamers, I think most of them, I think, were summoned at least twice, but I think even still they all paid for themselves like twice, so that's very solid. For the Lizardmen side, the Slaanesh definitely got a lot of damage in. Solar Engine, yeah, unfortunately, just didn't quite get enough to pay for itself. Same thing like the Rev Crystal. Although tanking was very good at times, the healing ultimately was not enough, and they just got focus fired by the Flamers once their support units were gone. And yeah, right. We did have Geltbloom's Terror in reserve, never got used also. But
that's so expensive to not bring into the battlefield. That's interesting. That's really interesting. We've gone heavily inventory. Sorry for jumping in there, but that would be massively costly. And what was that to counter from Tzeentch?
Yeah, maybe a Soul Grinder.
That have it's confusing.
Maybe hunt
yeah,
down
Soul Grinder. Yeah, Soul Grinder of Tzeentch are really good. Yeah, no, that makes sense actually. But, yeah, really good point, actually.
Yeah, I mean, for the Lizardmen, I mean, the Umbral Tide did a really nice job. Some of the Skink Skirmishers were very cost-effective, but the Saurus just kind of get owned here. They're not really able to do a lot, so it's a sad day for the Lizardmen infantry.
Yeah. Overall, just a fantastic usage of inventory there. Alfredo definitely had the man games of what was brought there, and overall, great. So now we're sitting on 5-4. And what do we have there? Do you want to jump into the FFA, or do you want to tackle that last? Yeah, do you want to go in the FFA?
Let's save the FFA for last. I feel like that one's very special. I do think we have a 2v2, though, so maybe we can go to that one next.
Whereabouts is that one?
It's 2v2.
2v2 Clan War.
Dwarfs,
seen.
Which is ultra cursed. Plus,
that is the most grotesque thing I've ever seen in my life. I will have to name and shame the Skaven player for not playing something akin to what a Dwarves would expect. Even still, the Kislev and the Legion of Chaos.
Right?
What is this shenanigans?
Just equally cursed.
I'm clicking watch replay. I'm gonna ignore the fact that this heresy is afoot, and I'll see, because I have played Dwarves since Warhammer 1, so I'm gonna love them to bits as always. As always, do not shame your ancestors, Zoe brother. But it is pretty criminal to see. But one of the things that I love the most about 2v2, I'm not sure if you've seen much, but it opens up opportunities like Ogres and Khorne, coming with healing for the likes of Scarbrand, factions that have significant weaknesses, you can bring a secondary one that can help massively.
Definitely.
And honestly, Skaven can bring some really, really powerful weapons teams, and it completely complements the ways that the Dwarves play. Although, equally...
I was just going to say, take a Necrotect and heal Satang, or...
Yeah, exactly. The opportunities are endless. I've paused at 4 seconds.
Alrighty. And let's give it a heave-ho and go. And why don't you start with the Underground Alliance?
I'll start with the Dwarves because I much prefer them. We've got Thoric Ironbrow. Apologies for jumping in there. So we've got Thoric Ironbrow on his anvil. I believe it's bugged, so we'll have to wait and see how he performs. He doesn't actually do anything in attack. We've got double Dragon Slayer on the hero side. We've got the likes of Cannon Situation, Dragonback Slayers, double Cannon Scenario, Blasting Charges, a lot of Dwarf Warriors, so relatively cheap and cheerful, and some Slayers to boot as well if you want to go with the Murder Kill Yes Yes.
What? Murder Kill Yes
Yes? Skaven.
Oh.
Yeah, Skaven.
I see. Yeah, we got a bunch of weapons teams, Avalanche Mortars, Death Globes. You can see them shelling those demons in the distance there. Gracier of Plague on the Bell. Yeah, secretly a great choice. Like Skaven players know, the bells are actually really good. Eshin Triads.
Yeah, 16 leadership is insane.
Yeah, well, and especially in a big support situation like this where you're supporting an ally. I've got some Triads protecting the back, plenty of chaff scattered around, globes. But it looks like I'll quickly switch to Kislev because we've got dervishes already attacking here. Constantine leading the way, and a bunch of ambushers out in the distance still trying to close in. Got a Frost Maiden of Ice also pretty far out right now as well. Why don't you quickly tackle those demons, what remains, as I look. Things in the Woods, Griffin Legion, yeah. Also emerging from
yeah,
the
absolutely.
Woods
So we've got quite a few demons on the flanks here, not really looking to be engaged. But we've got a couple of Seekers, as you're about to call out, we're getting shot by the artillery pieces. Some Chaos Furies also popping in to try and shut down some of these backline units, especially with the likes of the Warlock Jezzails, Fiends, El Clasico, a couple more of the likes of the Nurglings. Quite a lot of infantry coming through, and the Golden Griffin. Interesting pickup. Definitely just getting shot at by a ton of things. Very scary. But, like we said with the Kislevites, just really interesting things in the woods coming through. Not really sure what targets they're going to be looking for, but in these situations of a 2v2, it's one of those things where you want to throw things in, but you want to be fighting together as one. And so I feel like there's a little bit of a disjointed elements here, but if you shut down really scary units and then utilize things in the later stages of the battle and then start mopping up, that may be what they're looking for.
Yeah, the disruption early was good. The rush, like you said, was slightly mistimed. It's very tricky to execute a well-timed rush with 2 or more players, but and we do see now at least some of the Seekers getting in the back line, the Fiends getting in here, able to shut down some of these weapons teams. The Slayers are right in position, though, to intercept. So it's really interesting, both players just kind of going range plus defense, and since both Skaven and Dwarfs excel at that play style, it looks really scary right now. But as this rush starts to take effect here on the far side, yeah, Heart of Winter, it's going to be doing some really nice damage to that blob.
Garbage, not gonna lie.
Blizzard's probably just better, to be honest, and those Fiends too in the backline just getting cut down by Dragonback Slayers and Triads. So I don't know, I think in a 2v2 situation like this, like missile defense builds, basically the more value you have, missile defense builds tend to get stronger just because you can amass critical massive shooting, right? But we'll see, maybe the rush can get through.
I mean, only 400 entities remaining for the likes of the enemies in regards to the demons and Kislev. I think most of the things that are still surviving on the battlefield are Kislevite troops. We've got the Seekers still trying to cut through the chaff alongside the things in the woods, trying to get into the weapons teams. Devastating charging of the Globadiers on the left side of the map here. But there's still so much cheap and cheerful infantry that is awaiting to fight here alongside the Dwarves and the the Skaven. 1.9k troops, only 1,000 have perished within the battle, but equally on the side of the other way, 1,000 has also perished. But you can see the balance of power significantly in favor of the Dwarves and Skaven.
I just have to quickly call out there the Akshinas ambushers, the Wolfhearts, got detonated by the dreaded 13th spell, which then also summons some Storm Vermin to kill the rest of them. So really nice use of that spell. Again, only available to the Grey Seers. You don't see it super often, but secretly one of Skaven's best spells. Damage plus summon, completely unique in the game, as it's the only one that functions that way.
264 range damage is disgusting, and 100% AP. So yeah, it's one of those things where if you see that thing coming up from the ground, you gotta run. But yeah, the Stormvermin Halberds still around the outside, but not looking to charge in, but they are going to crumble very shortly. The Blue Scribes is something we didn't call out. Very interested to see, the pure RNG of just what they're going to throw out, but only 141 gold value for the Blue Scribes, not potentially looking for the RNG casts that they were looking for. And obviously Sledge trying to cycle charge around the outside, just looking for these, but I feel like the Warlock Giselles are just completely shutting down any kind of Sled's engagement there, and the Quarrelers can do a fantastic job of just holding the line.
Yeah.
As Dwarves are unbelievably good at holding the line like that.
Yep. Like I said, these two factions, ranged defense, both excel and honestly kind of cover each other's weaknesses in many ways. As cursed as it is, like the Dwarfs kind of lacking chaff, Skaven are able to provide that, and both of them have great burst damage at range. Like, I would say Slayers are probably the best anti-large unit in the game, possibly, just pound for pound.
Yeah, I would agree.
So also having them
as well
for defense, and because they're infantry speed, they synergize perfectly with Skaven. So there's a lot to like about this alliance, as much as I hate it.
Yeah, definitely. And we saw the summon coming out from the Greyseer just to hit the critical mass of Arminos bonus as well, because summoned units also do count towards the likes of Arminos bonus. Yep. Excuse me, balance of power. But great usage of defense there from the Dwarven side. And that would be the ODM side taking another win. So that's 6 wins in a row for ODM here, which is kind of incredible, especially with the with how it started off. We've got, for the Skaven side, I'll jump in with the Dwarves, because I do love my boys Dwarves. So yeah, Thoric, only 400 gold value, which is like we mentioned, because his bugs on his rune thingy-bobby. 1,000 gold value on one of the Dragon Slayers, 800 on the other ones. Blasting Charge is doing a great job with 600 on one of them, 47 on one, and 376 on one of them. A lot of the Dwarven inventory not really paying for themselves, apart from the Slayers, definitely getting in situations that they can thrive. Cannon's not really doing much either. I honestly think it was just a situation where the mass blobbed inventory, the Dwarves, just making a huge impact to allow Skaven to get a lot of damage off. But you want to jump in with the Skaven?
Yeah, I mean, the weapons teams are really where a lot of the value comes in this game. Multiple.
For sure.
Yeah, both the RORs, like, 1,600 for the Giselles, 1,200 for the Mortars, then also 2 of the Globadiers get 1,200 as well. One of them gets crushed, but then for the rest of the Skaven build, yeah, some nice values spread around. Reasonably cost-effective chaff. The Triads ROR also got some really nice damage in. Greyseer Plague, like we saw, only 1,000 damage value, but he's relatively cheap, even on the Bell. And yeah, I mean, unfortunately for the Northern Alliance, I guess we can call them, a lot of units just were blasted before they could really do much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, on the Legions of Chaos side, the Blue Scribes actually, in the latter stages of the fight, got quite a lot of gold value, up to 1,000 there. Yeah, it was an interesting. Golden Griffin got a really, really nice final transmutation, but only popping out about 4,000 damage from that one. But one of the Furies got 1,000 gold value. I feel like, if they were fighting and charging at the exact same time, it's kind of a dream world for the Dwarven and Skaven player to have things skirmishing and fighting by themselves. Quite a relatively decent chunk of value from the Griffin Legions, about 1,000 on one of them. A couple, about 2.4k ish across the board for the Griffin Legions, so that's definitely not paying for themselves. But Kastalton's an interesting pick as well. Overall, I feel like for Kislev, he wouldn't be my first choice. I'm not sure about yourself.
Probably go with the witch. I can't remember her name right now.
Katarina. Yeah. Katarina on sled is so oppressive, and definitely can be massively skirmishy, because then you can drop the sleds, right? You can take Katarina on a sled, only take Heart of Winter, and you can drop the Ice Maiden as well. You can kind of kill 2 birds with one stone.
Not Katarina, the hag.
Oh, Mother Stankia.
Right,
I'm with you.
Right.
Yes, similar thing.
Yeah, because
Mother Stankia definitely did the same thing.
Her shooting attack does really good against blobbed up units, and especially in a 2v2 where your opponents might be kind of stacked on top of each other, like we saw here. She'd definitely be at risk of getting blasted by ranged units, but also her chariot can dodge somewhat effectively, so I probably would have rather seen her here. And then also, again, your Lord and Caster is one, same with Katarina as well, but then you don't have to buy a second character. You can maybe reallocate some of those funds elsewhere.
Yeah. I think, the only thing you'd probably potentially have to worry about with the Shankia is just a friendly fire she'll kick in, but I'm going to continue on that one. And I think we've got the Alfredino versus Ronin is another one that we're going to watch.
Yes.
If you want to jump in that one, the Awakened versus the Brosen Throne.
Weirdly,
I
this
think
is like
Alfredo's played once.
one of those matchups that I didn't know I needed, but I actually really, it's a fun matchup because these very different factions, but it's like, again, it's only something that could have ever existed in Total War Warhammer, because Vampire Coast was never a faction in tabletop, but yeah, it's just super interesting to see this just slow plotting gunline faction against like the ultimate like melee rush faction, right? So I want
to also comment 4 bloated corpses here.
Yes.
4. Not 1, not 2, not 3. 4 bloated corpses is kind of insane to think about, because you're very unlikely to get the value, because if it goes into the Chaos Spawns, pretty much nothing's going to happen.
Right.
Especially because of the fact that it's not going to one-shot them. It's really good against inventory, so I'm going to pause at 4 seconds here. And then if you want to count us in, and then you can start jumping in. Unless you want to pause it and then just talk about the inventory, because it's land battle.
Yeah, we can just leave it paused while we go through the builds. Since you've started with the bloated corpses, why don't you finish us up with the rest of the Vampire Coast?
Absolutely. So we've got a significantly large amount of the Gunnery Mob handgunner variant. So 145 range on these bad boys, and they can absolutely pack a punch if they can get an opportunity to do so. Like you rightly called out, they are super duper slow, and it's ironic against a faction that is known for their speed running into battle, but it's Gunnery Mob. And the Mongols as well, we've got one of the ROR Mongols. I mean, we need to make sure to leverage the fact that they have the Stalk ability that they do alongside Hungering. So a couple of things that can skirmish a wee bit here. The zombie deckhand mobs as well, across the board. Quite a classico. Not really gone for many anti-large options from the inventory perspective, especially because you've got so much shooting. And the handgunners as well. The insane damage that these guys can pull out is going to be quite scary. But like we said, the quadruple bloated corpse will be interesting. But Luther Harkon is actually mounted with Regeneration, Hornswaggle, and Death Shriek. And the damage he can do is pretty damn insane, especially because he can silence. Although that's not really going to be too oppressive against the likes of Khorne, because there's not really much that they're going to cast. But we'll jump in with Khorne.
Oh yeah, I've actually forgotten they tweaked Luther Harkon, and they actually gave bonus versus large to the Terror Goose as well. Wow, yeah, he actually had a very significant buff. Just had to call that out.
Oh yeah,
quick.
wow, 25 bonuses large.
Yeah, that's huge.
She's got to be quaking. Oh, and you know, she's not. She's a small entity, which is one thing to mention as well. So she'll probably win that fight, I would suspect. But she has 3,000 or so less HP and no regeneration, but she does have flaming attack. So it'll be an interesting fight there.
Very interesting.
So I've pressed play, by the way.
Oh yeah, go for it. Let's start on in as I just finish up with Khorne. Not a lot to talk about here. It's just a melee rush line, mixed dual hand weapon and regular marauders. We've got some spawns here. Yeah, which had a cost reduction as well, so they're a little bit more cost effective. Minotaurs or anti-large. And interesting to see no Lamprey's Revenge, the Regiment of Renown, Crab Riders, I guess. I forget the actual name of the unit, but
yeah,
they're very good. And I mean, they have regeneration, they have incredible stats. The zombie shotgunners that are sitting on the back will deal damage even while they're in melee. I mean, they're just very good units overall, so I'm pretty surprised not to see them, but I will say the bloated corpses, if you were to, like, not that you'd see bloodletters, maybe you would in this matchup, but like bloodletters or any kind of more elite infantry, you can see one of them hugs the spawn.
Yeah,
not enough damage to pay for themselves.
Absorbing the pressure alongside the Furies as well. I mean, that's the scary thing, but I wanted to call out one thing. We actually had the speed of Lycos giving them unspottable on one of the bloated corpses, but the Khorne player reacted accordingly and ran away, thinking some shenanigans was afoot. Clearly seeing that the Vampire Fleet Captain had that one. Now the backline units are now getting set up for the Vampire Coast player, so getting to the point where we're going to hit critical mass and be very scary for the front line here, because yes, we've dealt with the bloated corpses, but now where does that leave us regarding all the backline units are going to be shooting away at all our inventory here? Yeah,
Khorne does need to get in contact as quickly as possible. I mean, those zombies are going to get cut through that front line pretty quickly, and then, I mean, beyond that... The coast doesn't have a lot, so they're kind of on a little bit of a short timer in terms of using their range units to pay for themselves, right? Because, ooh, nice spear slop near in the back line, and we see already the Furies starting to land. There's no bats or dogs to try and disrupt. The Mongols are going to be used with their anti-infantry bonus to try and respond to the Furies, but they're not really fast enough, and they don't have like a big sweeping charge animation, so actually going to take quite a long time to get in contact and start killing the Furies, but let's see. Right now the guns are holding, at least for the time being, and one Marauder did get pushed back as it was blasted on the approach. Valkia is also getting shot to bits, so definitely some back and forth here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's one of those things where oftentimes when it comes to units like this, you want to put other units inside of them. And I feel like the Mongols could have been just sitting on top of the likes of the handgunners to stop the potential of the Furies there. But tons of damage coming in from a lot of the spawn of Khorne. And Valkyrie is having an extremely difficult time against Luther. He's absolutely battering her in melee. And we can see that a lot of the skirmishes that the Manitors and the Spawns are taking on the other side of this map here are going exceptionally favorably, and a lot of the Furies have perished trying to kill these gun lines. But there's still, when there's one, there's more. And we can see the handgunners just starting to fire away. One of the most annoying things for against fighting Coast is they just take so long to die because they are crumbling. And one of the most frustrating things.
I hate crumbling so much. But I just wanted to call also, the fleet captain used the Fate of Buna there to try and push back a Marauder, just to buy some extra time, but as foretold, I think the Khorne rush is getting to the point where they can just get through to the gunners, and there's not a lot that the Coast can try and do to stop them. We see some of the Mongols starting to move into melee against some of the Marauder infantry, and to be honest, Marauder infantry is fairly well dealt with. It's mostly been blasted, and so I mean, they're not super threatening in the late game as long as you can get rid of enough of them that Harkon can then do what he needs to. But right now, the Minotaurs are definitely feeling pretty scary without the range support. And against, you know, Harkon, they're going to do massive damage. Harkon moves in to try and finish Valkia. A massive Sword of Khorne just blows up one handgunner. So that's one dealt with without having to do anything.
On the back line there.
Yeah, they're just gone.
I think the scary thing with Valkyrie is that she's had near enough zero pressure on this map right now. You know, Luther has basically healed up everything, and obviously if Luther happens to start cycle charging through, the thing that does scare me, like you rightfully called out, is the Manitors of Khorne. I mean, these boys will absolutely slap anything you put them towards. Like, if Mongols go to them, GG, not a problem. But there's some handgunners in the backline still able to shoot. I would love to see that the handgunners on the left side in the swamp start to shoot into the Manitors of Khorne. Because of the fact that they have no shields or anything like that. But this is one scary unit that would be very difficult to deal with. But Luther definitely can do a lot of damage.
Ooh, risky
just
charge.
Sit there and sponge.
A little breath attack, risky charge in. The handgunners were able to get like maybe one volley there. The Marauders ran to intercept, but their leadership folds. Massive they tear a route.
Yeah.
And even still, though, the way they're still like routing through the handgunners and not allowing them to shoot. So even in flight, they're actually being quite useful right now tactically. Another Spear Slaanesh gonna try and finish off those shotgunners, but I don't know. Khorne actually just hits army losses.
Yeah, wow. I think that was an interesting play. I think it was one of those things where the Coast player definitely had, you know, victory conditions in mind, and I think the overemphasis of trying to deal with the bloated corpses instead of trying to put themselves in a winning position, trying to over-rotate potentially. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see in that scenario, but fantastic job by Valkia in certain situations with the spear, trying to look for those, you know, victory conditions. Manitors of Khorne didn't really pull up with a lot of gold values, only 716. I think the likes of the Furies potentially started mulching. Wow, 2 Furies came with 0 gold value, which is kind of crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of the inventory not really finding opportunities to do much there. Going very wide with the Marauders of Khorne, especially the shielded variant made sense, but a couple of the handgunners just sat there permanently taking a lot of pop shots and just doing a lot of nuisance.
Yeah, Alfredino understood his win condition well, which is why, like, on the approach, he was shooting, like, the 2 Furies obviously just got shot out of the sky by handgunners before they could even get close. And then, you know, the other ones were able to make contact, but then he has the Mongols in range to go in and kind of shove them off, right? And so Alfredino, I mean, he knew it was going to be hard to protect his gun line, and so he allocated a lot of resources. Again, a Fate of Buna on a cheap Marauder unit is sometimes questionable, but like tactically in that specific situation, just to buy even an extra volley or two can make the difference in a close game. So big credit to Alfredino there for protecting his gun line. That was honestly one of the best gun line plays I think I've ever seen. So we're now 4-7 on the score. Let's see, XMT can claw their way back.
Absolutely. So we've got a Brettonia versus Empire. We've got a Khorne versus Vampire Scouts.
Mm.
And obviously we've got the Norsca versus Dark Elves. So I'm keen for whichever you want to fancy.
Let's go with the human factions. Let's go Brettonia versus Empire.
Absolutely. Oh, Master Engineer. I think we can all assume what that Master Engineer Lord is doing.
Steam
So
tank.
let's go ahead and click watch replay. Yep. I mean, it is crazy how good the... Oh, it's Flying Taco. Nice.
Yes.
ODM chosen one and Flying Taco. Some two very strong players here.
I'm excited for this because
Interesting build from...
I was talking some crap about Demigryph Knights recently, and Flying Taco commented on my video and said, no, I have some great replays of Demigryph Knights, so he's got a couple here. Let's see what he can do with them. With a couple Empire Knights, Mortar, yeah, just some state troops, including halberds, which are just so cost-effective. A single Hawkland Long Rifle, the Jade Wizard. Yeah, why don't you, since I went into it, I'm sorry, I got too eager. Why don't you take us through Brettonia?
No, absolutely. No. I'm the enthusiasm is always lovely to hear. So the questing knights on the likes of Brettonia, and then we've got some Grail knights as well. Super duper expensive cavalry here. So we'll have to wait and see how this plays off, because there's a lot of very expensive cavalry units on the likes of the Brettonian side. But if I'm going to be honest with you, Dav, I like to see it, because it's one of those things where you're going to be going against the likes of, the annoying Master Engineer and a steam tank and things like that. It's almost guaranteed as a steam tank, right? And I feel like in the likes of the Demigryph Knights, I do not believe that the Demigryph Knights will beat any of the Grail Knights in melee, or I'd be very surprised if it does, because obviously the Perfect Vigor comes in massively clutch for the likes of the Grail Knights alongside the Blessing of the Lady. But very cheap and cheerful frontline and very cheap backline units as well. Most of the cost is going into the likes of their cavalry alongside Leon. And of course, we've got a Life Mage. Interesting enough, Dwellers from Below.
Yes, very good AoE damage.
Very expensive. Yes, super good. We've got the Power Stone as well, and Earthblood. And by the way, I'm still on 4 seconds.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Have you raced ahead?
I'm at 13 seconds, so I'll pause now. And
okay, no, that's fine. You put. I'll catch up to 13 seconds in it quickly, but you can jump in. Obviously, the Hoshland rifles are being shot at, and the mortars are starting to shoot. I'm going to pause at 13 seconds, and then you just count us in.
Right, let's do it.
Absolutely. So yeah, rightfully mentioned that the Master Engineer is in a mount with 380 range. The Pigeon Bomb is very oppressive, super duper annoying to deal with.
Extremely
what
strong.
I'd love to see is the Brettonian player just running through the trees, just ignoring the fact that Hoshland rifles exist, ignoring the fact that everything that is oppressive from a range side of things, because this is kind of what you expect when it comes to using cheap and cheerful infantry. You want them to take the damage, so you can your powerful backline units can actually start doing, really powerful charges and devastating. Because like Empire Knights are not going to do anything to the backline units, but Peasant Mobs are there just as a complete sponge.
Right, and we see they're going to absorb a charge here. Since everything's a little bit far away, Taco can hit and run here with very little risk, and potentially just,
And the funny thing is, sorry for jumping in, the funny thing is, regarding the massive charge of the Peasant Mob, that's probably like 10 gold value because they're so damn cheap.
Right.
So it's like, it looks bad, but in actual fact, Brettonia's like, come on, charge me, boys, I don't really mind.
Well, now
they're going to try and skirmish and try and get the Empire Knights, but no.
It's drawn a couple of units in, though, where they can kind of be focused a little bit by missiles. Again, if there's like an AoE that could punish, maybe the Pigeon Bombs if he had timed it really right, but the Mortar, you might think like, oh, you need a cannon to kill cavalry, but actually the rest of the build pretty much is anti-large. The Mortar is here to kill archers only, and you can see it is firing and doing a great job. Just probably routes that Pox Arrow there with a quad hit on all 4 shots.
And the thing is, with Pox Arrow, it's a really good choice because you can actually poison your own inventory. So a really nice pick there. That was one of the changes they did with Warhammer 3. Leon's looking for the mage. The mage is completely isolated by himself, and the mage is obviously not on a cavalry, so instantly gets knocked onto the floor, and obviously that makes you basically immune to damage until you get up. Questing Knight's trying to flank through. There's quite a lot of the Brettonian cavalry trying to look and get engaged here. Spearman trying to stop the Grail Knights from getting into the massive blob that we see here. Grail Knights in the middle just getting caught.
Yeah, they're getting caught flat-footed by the Demigryph Knights. This is a nightmare engagement for them. This is definitely the one way that Demigryph Knights can win this engagement, especially with very cost-effective State Troop Spear support. But yeah, Lewin and these Questing Knights now kind of getting surrounded in a position where the Hawklands can just tee off on them. Or no, actually, the Hawklands switch onto the Archers. Very interesting. Taco definitely
Yeah,
respecting
interesting
the
choice there.
power of those Brettonian peasant archers. Cheap as they are quite strong.
So much damage from mortars as well. Yeah, no, it's one of those things where if you're committing 1 or 2 volleys to get them routed, and that's literally just 1 volley to get them routed, smart play. Is this a Dwellers in the middle? I think this
Yep.
might be a Dwellers coming out from middle. Disgusting, probably levels of damage coming out. Very scary for the Demogryph's halberds. They want to try and run away, but a counter heal coming out to stop the damage. Really good play with the Earthblood just to make sure that none of these entities actually die, because if an entity's not dead, you can heal them to full.
Yep.
Especially with the 75% healing that's enabled. Empire Knights fighting the Questing Knights in the back line. Definitely not a fight they want to win. The Halberdiers trying to cover that one. Nothing's really trying to look for the mortars. One of the men-at-arms is trying to flank around, being a sneaky beaky.
Yeah.
Hoshland rifles still use about 30% of their ammunition, still very much active in the fight here. Grail Knights, there's not... The thing that scares me is there's not regrowth, right? Regrowth is one of those things that is like an emergency bomb, and Pigeon Bombs is absolutely nailing these Grail Knights.
Yeah, I was going to say, the Empire Knights...
Halberd.
Yeah, the Demogryph Knights have terrible leadership. It's one of the worst things about them. They get terrified away with like half their HP still here, but they should be able to recover with the steam tank nearby.
No, absolutely, definitely. Definitely can recover, but it's just completely negated the pressure that it had on Leon here.
I did want to call out for Taco.
Player doesn't have a ton of...
Just real quick, the Empire Knights that are now routing off were sacrificed beautifully to kind of body block for the steam tank and for the Demogryph Knights. Demogryph Knights really haven't been directly charged by the Grail Knights or the Questing Knights, largely due to the fact the Empire Knights have been kind of sacrificed here. So just wanted to quickly call out their service because they definitely paid for it.
No, it's a really good comment. It's one of those things where when you have very, very cost-effective cavalry and very, very powerful cavalry, you want to keep them blobbed up so they're not being oppressive onto a lot of your inventory. And so the Empire Knights definitely massively worth just throw them in there, just keep them busy. And the Steam Tank Master Engineer, 1.8k value already. It's a scary prospect because there's not really a lot of engagements that you can kind of like play towards your victory condition together. We're starting to thin out all the elite infantry and actually the elite cavalry on the Brettonian side. I would love to see some of the peasant mobs and men-at-arms running at the Hoshland rifles, though.
The beautiful rear charge on those Demogryphs, not to cut you off. They were blobbed up around King Lewin, and those Grail Knights just came in and might have just finished those Demogryph Knights. Yeah, Demogryph Knights took a lot of damage right there. The Steam Tank Lord is there to support, and eventually this other Demi does show up, so maybe they can salvage this situation. Yeah, Empire Halberds also moving in. It's the Brettonian support infantry just can't measure up in terms of quality.
I would love to see the Hoshland rifles being shot at by the Trebuchet or something, because I feel like the Trebuchet is just throwing into Spearmen. It's doing relatively nothing.
Yeah.
Who cares if a couple of Spearmen get killed there when the Hoshland rifles, let's look at the gold value, only 539. That actually surprised me from a gold value perspective. Leon is going to have a really hard time when it comes to fighting in the middle of this one. He does have regeneration, but I can imagine the Brettonian player is potentially saving up for maybe a Dwellers once again. Definitely a very cost-effective Dwellers there. The Empire Knights keeping the Grail Knights in battle here. Perfect Vigor obviously coming in massively clutch, but it looks like the Empire Knights most likely will win that one, especially because of the terror route. Excuse me, the routing. Damsel Life to skirmishing in the backline of the Hoshland rifles. Definitely going to get a little bit scary, because what can the Brettonian player do against the Halberds and against the Steam Tank? They're running out of juice here.
Yeah, the Steam Tank in particular, I mean, you could kill everything else, like, especially if you were to get the Demis in a good Dwellers blob, like, you could potentially catch them out if Taco made a mistake, especially. With the Steam Tank, I mean, there's this... Lewin, even fighting it in melee, might potentially have a tough time. Like, he'd really have to be cycle charging, using sort of Khorne, using all his tools to best effect. But,
absolutely,
the Steam Tank plus support, there's no way. And we see right now balance power tilting pretty heavily against Brettonia as the spears finally make contact with the Trebuchet out in the distance there. The mortars are keeping those archers and other units from being able to come back and assist at all. It's looking pretty grim.
One thing I want to say for Flying Taco as well, he's being very, very smart with who he decides to take the engagements with. I think that's one thing we need to kind of call out. I mean, he's done a very good job of reserving certain units to take very specific engagements. Whereas on the Brettonian side, I feel like if they had the Trebuchets, for example, on the Hoshland rifles, then all of a sudden I don't have to worry about that one, because of the calibration distance, it was about 75% of their range, so they'd have been relatively accurate. But GG to Flying Taco, which is on the XMT side, great usage of a couple of their units there, but the Halberds, I mean, the Demogryph Halberds, I mean, do you want to... I know obviously you've had a love-hate relationship with them, but from that perspective, do you think they definitely pulled their weight?
Yeah, I mean, Taco executed perfectly. I will say that from the outset.
Agreed.
Like in terms of screening for them, taking the right engagements, not letting them get charged, like it was absolutely textbook.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider,
Agreed.
and they do pretty much pay for themselves. I mean, it's not like they wildly overperform, but they fulfill their intended role, which, you know, fair enough. If you use them perfectly and they can fulfill their intended role, that's fine. I think my problem is that I'm not as good as Flying Taco, although I can compete with him when I'm playing my best. Like we've had some great games over the years, in particular, but yeah, just executing like that perfectly with them, definitely you can. It's just in practice, a lot of the times it's going to be hard to execute that well with them. Steam Tank Lord also pays for himself, no surprises there. Yeah,
Absolutely.
one of the Empire Knights also 900 value, so despite kind of being outmatched on quality, again, still we're just able to get good engagements, get good support, and ultimately pay for themselves. Why don't you take us through?
Yeah, one of the wonderful people in my chat, Jack, called out that one of the Spearmen of the Empire had 150 kills.
Yeah,
but
yep.
they were clearly beating up peasant mobs,
100
because
gold
I was
value.
anticipating. Yeah, I was anticipating pretty high values there, but 104 gold value. I think it's one of those things where when you bring in like peasant mobs cost 100 gold, right? They are super unbelievably cheap, and the men at arms are like between 250 and like 400 or something crazy. Peasant bowmen I think are like 450, but you know it's very deceptive sometimes. But the Demigryph halberds got so many kills, one of them ranked up twice, which is quite incredible. But overall, I mean, the elite cavalry on the Brettonian side really didn't get kind of the oomph we were looking for. They were looking for skirmishes that just weren't happening, and obviously Flying Taco did a great job of mirroring where they were moving and ensuring that the right units were shooting the right thing. You know, obviously we're making comments on the fact that the Hoshran rifles are shooting the archers, but honestly, overall, in that perspective, with one shot, they were routing instantly, and I think it was a great decision making in the spur of the moment. Only 27 gold value on the Jade Wizard, but that's purely because of the fact that they're there to heal. But yeah, overall, GG's. Well played by the Flying Taco.
Absolutely. And as we just get to this next replay, I mean, it's always something to consider, like tactical value versus gold value, right? Like, a lot of the time you should be probably shooting the most expensive thing, but what separates the best players often is their ability to judge, like, I should do something against the rules in this situation because it's
100%.
tactically the best thing to do, right? So,
100%.
Why don't we move on?
Yeah, definitely.
Next?
Do you want to jump in the Khorne versus Vampire counts?
Yes, let's do that.
Also, who let the dogs out?
Oh,
the
yeah.
new Karanak is coming in here. Fun fact, I learned recently that meant the ugly women in the club, which is something that I did not know until very recently. I used to sing that song quite a bit, and then learned the meaning of it recently. So that was interesting indeed. But I don't know how much pressure he's going to have, but if I'm honest, against the Banshees, really scary for Uncle Gant here, because I think Karanak will absolutely munch them to pieces. I'm going to pause at 13 seconds just so they can get a little bit closer so we can talk about the armies. But yeah, Karanak with the Wounded Prey alongside the magical attacks, pretty savage. Pause at 13 seconds, so if you want to jump in with the Vampire counts, excuse me, I'm very interested to see the build.
Sure, yeah, Red Duke, rather. Interesting. Blood Dragon often is better, and I would consider it has the Helm of Discord, which is just generally a little bit better. This one, though, Elsif, specifically against demons, is a really strong debuff because it removes physical resistance, which is pretty unique. At minus 40
it's specific to
melee
him,
defense,
right?
Yeah, specific to the Red Duke only.
Yep.
Minus 40 melee defense as well means this guy can snipe demonic characters like it's nobody's business. And we have two. Scarbrand, who's not going to be easily sniped regardless of what you do, unless you have like a lot of missiles, I guess. But Karnak, he has low enough HP. The Red Duke could nuke him pretty quickly. But the rest of the build here, we've got Spearmen, some Crypt Horrors. Yeah, the Cairn Race are an interesting pick. Against Khorne, they have so much magic damage, I probably wouldn't, but at the same time, I don't totally hate it. Banshee as well might have a little bit of a tough time. Double Banshee, in fact, against those demonic characters. So it's interesting. He's kind of like acknowledged the demonic aspect with Elsif, but then also brought some ethereal units. So we'll see kind of how this plays out. But why don't you take us through?
I mean, Screaming Banner.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Screaming Banner, sorry, and the Banshee is a great pickup because obviously -4 leadership. I think the objective there is to just look terror routes, but I mean, that only really works on the likes of if we jump over the Khorne side, only really works on the Marauders of Khorne, but we do know they have immune to psychology because of the fact they have Frenzy, so it's only a threshold of that. Do you know what? We can do you want to play while I go through the rest of the Khorne?
Sure thing.
Can do 3, 2, 1, go. And then we can see that we've got the likes of the Mantors of Great Weapons, a tree play action, that one, so very terrifying. The Blood Brute Gorgon coming through, and Karanak looking to choose something tasty. One of the things to also mention on the Red Duke side with the LSIF is minus 20% physical resistance. So Scarbrand effectively will only have armor to rely on when it comes to fighting and surviving against Unswan. But yeah, Cam Race, like you rightly called out, very terrified for the prospect of them fighting, but in truth, there's very limited magical attacks. There's no demon units. You know, oftentimes when it comes to the Champions of Chaos specifically, change the meta significantly for demon factions because they can bring a lot of mortal units to the table. A Mortis Engine coming through, but let's just wait and see how Scarbrand goes. Gonna have to be a little bit careful because does Scarbrand have the Rampage, Rage and Body? He does indeed, so things can get rampaged and locked down really quickly, but obviously, like we mentioned, massive amounts of mortal units coming in with the Mortar of Khorne alongside the Mantors of Khorne due to the fact they've got Blood Greed and they've got Frenzy. They've got a double whammy of immune psychology, so they're going to be absolutely Rita's reign there. Banshee's sitting in the middle. Interesting that the Khan race have been sent into Scarbrand, especially with the magical attacks. Tons of damage are going to come through there, but the Cryptors are looking to lock them down alongside the Red Duke, is just hopping around, looking for the perfect engagement, but in actual fact, Mortis Engine is going to be nearby, so there's no real defined perfect engagement, really.
Yeah, the Banshees almost were like chasing there, kind of baiting. Ooh, now we see the Enrage. I was going to say, Scarbrand really needs to Enrage to keep them in melee. But right now the damage actually is not that much. I feel like the burst, like the Gorgon's kind of stutter stepping a little bit, not really doing attack animations. Scarbrand gets a hit there on the Banshee, but like Karnak also is just like trying to pull through, not really doing attacks, so didn't really get a lot of benefit from that Enrage. It wasn't there.
If I'm going to be honest, sorry for interrupting you there. If I'm honest, the Enrage helped the Vampire Counts player more than anything because it pulled units in to allow for the blob fight for this Mortis Engine to be activated. So honestly, very terrifying prospect with the RNG that happens with a Rampage in certain situations, because the Mortis Engine and a lot of these infantry units getting pulled in did not help Scarbrand in his quest to murder these guys. The Gorgon Brute is obviously getting slapped around, half HP already, and Scarbrand's obviously taking a lot of damage as well. The Mantors of Khorne having to be thrown in to keep him and make sure they can get out of this battle, but Mortis Engine completely untouched. Very terrifying prospect with the amount of printing of value this will happen. The Red Duke is just absolutely walking around, seeing what's happening, but he's going to have to move away from Karanak because obviously he'll be silenced and won't be able to cast otherwise, but definitely a really nice skirmishing from the likes of the Vampire Counts here.
The thing too is, Karnak is putting himself at pretty big risk here. He's positioning away from any anti-large support. And again, the Red Duke drops an LC. If he could kill Karnak in a couple of attack animations.
Couldn't agree more.
He's got to be very careful.
I can see the logic. The logic is I have a 55-meter range silence, and I can negate magical attacks. So he's trying to hover around where there's magical attacks and stopping the Red Duke from casting. But if I'm going to be 100% honest with you and transparent, I do not think it's worthwhile just making sure that the Red Duke can't cast, because in actual fact he only has really Invocation of Heck and Valhel's Dance that can actually do anything. But due to the fact that the Blood Brute is just getting absolutely battered and now actually activating on the corpse cart, finding targets that they're looking for. But the likes of the Banshees doing really well into Scarbrand now.
Yeah, I'm very surprised with how well the Banshees are doing. One of them gets like a quarter HP in one hit. Okay, that's what I was expecting. But he just hasn't been, I guess, just been getting bad RNG. He hasn't been landing attack animations. Maybe some of the damage is getting split into the Crypt Horrors as well because the Banshees are so small. But I expected more out of Scarbrand, honestly, in this melee engagement. And especially with these single entities getting pulled apart, not fighting side by side, not fighting with the Minotaurs. Khorne's just having a hard time keeping their forces properly supported. And Karnak dies to some Cairn Wraiths.
Yes, definitely not the most good engagement for Karanak there. But one thing to mention on that, I think that just surrender came through, so fair enough. But one thing to mention, Scarbrand had about a 70% chance to hit into the likes of those Banshees and just really struggle to get those shots in there. And one thing to also count upon, since they were staggered together, the splash damage that Scarbrand will do is obviously hindering his ability to kill everything around, especially since the Uncle Gant did a great job of ensuring that other units were there to sponge the damage at the same time. But overall, fantastic play by the Vampire Counts player, looking towards the victory conditions and just allowing the Mortis Engine to heal and print a lot of value off. So, great play by the likes of Uncle Gant, giving XMT, bring them up to 6 points. So it's 7-6 right now. It's getting close. There's a couple. Exactly that. We're close as well.
Very close.
Sorry, Ken.
Just one other thing to call out, too, that I had mentioned earlier is the combination of poison and frostbite, right? You have the ghoul type units here represented by the crypt horrors who have poison, and then the ethereals, obviously the Cairn wraiths, have frostbite. So minus 45% speed debuff means that those kind of blob fights, it's very hard to get out of them once you're into them, right? And just in general, like Karnak too, once he was caught, there's no chance of escape. Both those units are fast enough with that much of a speed debuff. There's absolutely no way he's going to be able to get away from them. So yeah, I just wanted to excuse me, call that out, because I've been seeing a lot of that specific combination of ethereal plus poison lately, and I really like it, to be honest.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, poison can be considered 15% ward save because of the damage reductions it does. Do you want to jump in with the Norscan versus the Dark Elves?
Norsca versus Dark Elves. Yep, that's
near the bottom.
Arrow.
That is indeed correct. Let's jump in, and I'll pause at 13 seconds here. We can see the green one playing against Aristocratic. Dark Elves, obviously very impressive. One of the things that surprises me the most here is the Dark Elf player has no Medusas. That is such an insane meta pick when it comes to the Dark Elves. You almost always expect them to bring a ton of Medusas, either on the Shrine or a double Medusa opener. Very common pick that we haven't actually seen from them, so that's really interesting to see.
I'm going to
I'll play it out. I'm about to get into 13 seconds, but I'm just going to keep talking about it. Felheart, since I've already talked about the Dark Elves, Felheart's coming through with his Dragoni mount, got a Hydra as well. I mean, we've got some exceptionally expensive stuff on the likes of the Dark Elf side, covering with a lot of the Dark Riders. I mean, oftentimes, the Doom Warlocks as well, we've got a double Doomfire Warlocks, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, I do not rate the Dark Riders. I think if you're going to go cavalry, oftentimes you want to look towards the likes of the Cold Ones. Super good AP, anti-large damage. But Felheart, obviously, is coming with the Noxious Breath because of the mount, and Dreaded Duelist, giving a 25-24. Makes him exceptionally powerful when it comes to fighting. I mean, Wulfric has gone with his cavalry option again. Seems very interesting. A lot of people doing that with Hunters of Champions, definitely looking to lock down things. But we've got some Blackheart Corsairs, Tree Play opener with that one, and Dread Spears across the board as well. The Fire Mage as well coming through, which is the Burning Head and firing Cascading Fire Cloak, which means that Felheart, in any situation of dueling, will almost guarantee to win that one. And finally, we've got the Dread Spear RR on this side. So yeah, over to you, my friend.
Yeah, for Norsca, it's double, no longer Frostworm, the formerly known as Frostworm, and a bunch of Skin Wolves. We've got a front line of Marauders, looks like just basic Marauders, no champs. And Wulfric the Wanderer, definitely quite good. Yeah, the Lore of Boats is one of the best AoE damage abilities in the game. Seafang is just awesome. One of the main reasons to bring him, to be honest. But that plus, yeah, Lore of Shadows, Pit of Shades, and Melkoth, so quite a bit of potential for magic AoE damage onto infantry as I hit pause or play here. Jump right into it.
Me too.
And
yeah, I mean, the thing is, the Skin Wolves are such an interesting pick from the anti-large perspective, but if it was armored, if it was the actual armored cavalry from the likes of the Dark Elf, they would actually win that fight. So interesting that they decided not to go with any expensive cavalry and went instead with the monster. Well, it's not a Hydra, it's Charybdis, or whatever the hell it's called.
Charybdis.
Whatever that thing is, doesn't have any. It has a -8 leadership. I didn't know that actually. That's quite interesting. -8 leadership on the Abyssal Howl. Definitely going to be relatively scary, but there's a lot of options for the Norscan player on this side. You know, Loka has just said, you know what, screw it, I'm jumping straight in, boys. Leroy in this scenario, the Frost Dragon, rest in peace Frostworms, have also tried to cycle charge and perch in there, but a lot of damage on Loka.
Yeah, a decent amount of damage on Loki here. Obviously, has self-healing. The Doomfire Warlocks is such an interesting pick to me because I think they're one of the worst cavalry units in the game, actually. But specifically against Skin Wolves, they can trade well because they have magic damage. Skin Wolves do rely on their physical resistance. Even the armored ones only have 70 armor, which is good, but it's not that much at the end of the day. So between the poison, the magic damage, the relatively high overall weapon strength, Doomfire Warlocks, I think, trade well, and that's the reason he brought them here. I don't know. Maybe Aerocrastic just likes Doomfire Warlocks, but big engagement in the sky here. Yeah,
yeah. 2v1. Just land him. Just get him landed and start utilizing the cavalry that you have in this situation. Although you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe you can land while in melee, so you'd have to probably just get a little bit out of there.
No, you could issue an attack order though onto like the Bale Fiend or onto one of these Marauder infantry, and that would land him.
That's why you go. Yeah, very, very good point. I think in this situation, he is playing towards the victory conditions, that Norsca has in that double Chaos Frost Dragon for tactic usage there. A couple of the Skin Wolves just not getting active just yet, but we can see the Thamir Bale Fiend with the Pit of Shade, so anything that's stacked up is going to be in a little bit of trouble. So much of the Dark Elf infantry and cavalry is just not engaged in combat right now, so I'm very surprised that they're not trying to look for flanks or anything like that. You know, this is a situation where you can actually start taking a bit of an advantage due to the fact that the Norscan player is very staggered right now. They're not exactly conformed with their way that they're trying to be aggressive here. Fire Mage is not really looking for anything either. I mean, it could be valuable just to throw Burning Heads into the likes of the Skin Walls to stop that healing by half. But now the Dark Elves player is starting to adjust and realize that, do you know what, boys, my Harpies are getting miasma. This sucks. Life sucks. I have to start charging in now. Otherwise, the Norscan player can start skirmishing significantly.
Well, a big thing to consider, too,
is looking for little small skirmishes as well.
Is this whole time, Murderous Prowess popped super early, and it's been active basically this whole time, while a lot of the Dark Elf units have been kind of sitting, waiting for the right engagements, waiting for the right angles to attack, so they're going to lose quite a bit of value of the uptime. There's still 20 seconds, so it's not all lost, but nice breath attacks landing also from those Chaos Frost Dragons into the Hellebronii. They get absolutely nuked by that. But yeah, now the Dark Elves, the cavalry starting to come together, and I think the combination of the Dark Riders and the Doomfire Warlocks, if they get good engagements, should do well, but like here, they kind of engage and then pull back away. Think maybe just, I'm not sure, trying to use up those bound spells maybe for the Doomfire Warlocks before risking them in melee perhaps. But right now, Dark Elves seem to be starting to kind of get their numbers to tell. The Skin Wolves, as they get isolated against greater numbers of cavalry, the models will just get kind of torn down. So far so good. As long as Charybdis and Lokir can fight together and not get singled out by the Frost Dragons, they should do just fine.
Yeah, looking for those terror out situations, especially with the -8 leadership and in AoE. I mean, yeah, rightfully called out. I think it's one of those situations where the Dark Elves utilizing the Murder's Prowess. Typically speaking, in a battle, you'd expect the Murder's Prowess to hit in after they're already exhausted. But if you're stationary and you've not tasted battle just yet, and a lot of that is, you know, is leaving your inventory's abilities to fight, you know, significant amounts of power has just been left. You know, it's probably roughly about like a 20% additional damage performance. Finishes coming out on the likes of the Black Eye Corsairs and the Dread Spears. Not an awful lot of gold value, but obviously there's not many targets right at this point due to how staggered a lot of the inventory are currently. Skin Walls running away from the likes of the Dark Riders. As
not to cut you off here, but yeah,
no, please do.
He gets hit,
slapped around here.
Then in return, the Chaos Dragons start hitting Lokir. He pops Dreaded Duelist and turns around to face them. The Charybdis is holding its leadership just barely, getting a few key attack animations in here in the back, but I think, yeah, Dark Elves, all their support units kind of evaporate here, and the Skin Wolves providing extra anti-large support, enough to rout the Charybdis. Looks like Doom or Soul Blight here being used by Aerocrastic. It does debuff these units somewhat, especially their weapon strength, but yeah, I don't know. That with the Charybdis being routed off, it's not looking great.
And one of the things to mention in these situations, when Lokir is on his mount, you can see his stat line is 56 melee defense, but if he's getting attacked from behind, minus that by 75%. You know, in these situations where you've got significantly large entities, you cannot take skirmish, engagements like this. This is basically saying to Norsca, I know that your victory condition, matey, is to skirmish me and bob me up. Have at it. Good luck with me, matey. You got Skin Walls, you got everything I like, and you get Chaos Dragons. You know, I think it's one of those things where it's a bit scary. I mean, the Doom Warlocks, one of the things that are so incredible about them is, you know, the lesser Doom Bolt can just start skirmishing onto these dragons and skirmishing onto these single entities, especially into a lot of these heavy damaging dealers on the Norscan side. You know, you can even try and look for Wolfric or anything like that in the early stages of the game, but definitely a rough engagement, especially since a lot of the initial skirmish fights the Dark Elves took were a little bit staggered there. But GG's, well played to the Norscan player. Green One played fantastic. It's another one to ODM.
Yeah, ODM now up 8-6. So we'll have to see how many games we have left. I think there's still a chance for XMT to possibly win it. But let's see here. Yeah, in terms of the damage values, like I like some of Aerocrastic's picks, but at the same time, the Doomfire Warlocks are just like it's kind of like the demis. If you use them they're worse than the demis, I would say, in that it's much even harder because, you know, no armor, very squishy, right? It's even harder to use them well. If you do use them well, you could probably make them work. One of them gets close to paying for themselves, but just not quite enough. And then infantry-wise, mixed bag on the Corsairs. Some of them do okay. The Cryptus also, like, the
Yeah.
leadership debuff it has is really nice. And it's okay, anti-large, but I don't know if there's something wrong with the animations of it and the Hydra, but they both just seem to not do very well. So, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan there. It's a fun pick for sure, and I guess since it's a sea monster, it kind of fits the theme of Lokir, but yeah, not the best.
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
practice.
I think we only have the FFA left, unless I'm mistaken. Unless I'm mistaken, the FFA is what we've got on the cards here. So we'll wait and see how this transpires. I mean, how does it work in FFA? Are like everyone just fighting everybody, and then we'll just have to wait and see what happens?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. Yeah, let's load in and
We'll have to
see.
wait and see what happens.
If they're gonna like team
Okay,
up
let's load in
or.
the FFA. I mean, it'd be kind of weird spawning next to one of your mates and just saying, "Do you know what, matey? I'm going to charge you, lad." So we'll see what happens there. We've got Loopy representing as well. We've got a triple shade situation. Wow, heavily into the cavalry. Quadruple warlock. Potentially could be very annoying for things like Kugath. Well, I don't know what the interaction is. If you cast 4 lesser doom bolts at the same time, how does that look? Well, you can see we've got ogres, Nurgle, warriors of chaos, and we've got the dark elves.
Yeah, let's pause this. I'll go to about 13 seconds as they are going to engage pretty quickly here. It looks like Nurgle and the Dark Elves. So I'll go through Nurgle since you just did the Dark Elves. Kugath, we've got the Exalted Plague Bears here, regular Plague Bears, and Chaos Furies. Very demonic focused. Yeah, all demons. Very interesting. And that's basically it. It's just Plague Bears, Furies, and Exalted Plague Bears plus Kugath. Why don't you take us through the warriors here?
Absolutely, we've got Kolek, Sun Eater. His dad is the size of a mountain. But we've got a Dragon Ogre Shaggoth alongside with him, and the Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle with Fleshy Abundance. Honestly, the introduction of Nurgle into the game for the Warriors of Chaos has been such a massive advantage, especially with Dragon Ogres. Going with a theatrical army composition of Dragon Ogres alongside the likes of Kolek, which you love to see. We've got Marauders of Tzeentch, we've got Marauders. Pretty much a pretty heavy amounts of Marauders. Mirror Guards, I love the lore of that one. It was the likes of what's the Sigvald? Yeah, Sigvald basically loves to look at himself so much he made his guards wear mirrors so he can see himself at all times. We've got Chaos Warriors and rest Marauders if you want to jump into the ogres.
Sure, yeah, ogres looking like led by, of course, Slaughtermaster. They don't have any other lords really that are super competitive, so I think Rhesus can be okay in very specific situations. But anyway, the Scrap Launcher, we've got Lead Belchers, Powder Guts, Sky Striders, and some Bulls, looks like, with Iron Fists, bunch of Gnoblars, and Saber Tusks. 2 of them protecting the back flank, and why don't we get things rolling?
Are you at 13 seconds, yeah?
Yep.
Yep, 3, 2, 1, go. Right, I mean, already we've got the Dark Elves just absolutely throwing hands into the likes of Nurgle here, so we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I mean, the Triple Shade is definitely going to be scary for Kugath, because obviously he is an absolute sponge when it comes to anything ranged. Malethith protecting the likes of the Shades attacked by the Furies. I mean, it's going to be so difficult to cast everything going on, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, the Doomfire Warlocks, we'll have to wait and see. Already throwing the lesser bolts at the likes of Kugath.
No,
so
you wanted to see it.
I mean, one thing I want to say, smart usage of being next to the trees, though.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the damage potentially could be sponged. It looks like Kolek and the likes of the Ogres are still looking at each other seductively, so nothing happens there. It's the Dark Elf players and the Nurgle just having all the action to begin with. Dark Riders charging to Plague Bearers, definitely not a skirmish that they would want. Poison and the likes of the significant amounts of weapon strength will just completely deter them quickly. Doomfire Warlocks can definitely cycle charge with the Plague Bearers, especially because they have the magical attacks. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Breath attack coming out from Malekith, but trees are OP, it seems.
Undefeated.
Absolutely. Anytime there's terrain in this game, it is always very overpowered, especially because like rocks and stuff like that are the most overpowered unit in the game, confirmed.
Starting to get some blasting of the Marauders, too, as they start to get close enough to the Ogres. They can shoot them up a bit as they approach. Looks like Kolek and the Dragon Ogres going a little bit wide out there on the side, but I'm interested. I almost wonder if Loopy's kind of skirmish, kind of hit-and-run oriented strategy here is meant to buy time more than necessarily, like, win. Or, you know, he's kind of almost kiting away from Nurgle, so I'm wondering if he's going to try and unify with his teammate here and maybe fight as one, perhaps? Or at least just buy time.
I wonder if the Dark Elf build wanted to be near their Ogres. Because I feel like the Dark Elf build right now would have been fantastic to deal with a lot of the Ogre units, but You know, you can't control where you spawn, but I'm scared of the shades, especially with a lot of the inventory. Then again, why am I saying they're scared? Plague Bearers and Nurgle are slow as hell. You know, you could set an alarm clock on your phone, go to bed, have a quick nap, wake up. They're not engaged yet, so not a problem there. You can see Kolak is actually starting to skirmish in the likes of the Ogres here. Powder Guts do not want to be here, especially with the Shaggoth. Absolutely going to slap them apart, especially with 1,000 weapon strength. A couple Cycle Charges and things like that going on to the likes of the Shades, but nothing too scary, especially because the Doomfire Warlocks can there to protect. But I think that has abandoned where Nurgle is, and we're starting to fight 2 versus 1. Smart usage of the fact that you've got mobility here.
Yep.
Bringing Malekith over.
Yeah, then the Warriors had been struggling a little bit, and even on value, they're still, you know, the furthest behind, I would say. They're in number 4 position, but the Ogres definitely getting collapsed on very heavily here. Also gives them an opportunity to fight a lot of stuff at the same time. You can see these Sky Striders just absolutely stuck in, fighting a lot of high-value stuff. Even though they're taking damage, they're probably also racking up a pretty good amount of value as well. So let's see. Like the Dark Elf flank attack, I like it as well, but they came in to attack with a lot of light units that, like, these Bulls, too, are trading super cost-effectively against those Doomfire Warlocks. It's just a horrible engagement for the Dark Elves. So
we've got some insider information here. It was Loopy assumed he was vanguarding onto the Ogres, which makes perfect sense as to why that skirmish was going there. So definitely a little bit of a surprise when the absolute pure stench coming out from Kugarth and Nurgles came out of there. You might have been able to smell them from a mile away, but sometimes you've got to take a risk with the Vanguard. Slaughtermaster getting pretty sizably chunked down, not very much gold value here, because obviously Kolak is an absolute unit when it comes to fighting this. Going with Dismember to stop them from getting these engagements, but a fantastic usage of the Vortex spell coming out of, I believe this would have been the Warriors of Chaos.
Yeah.
Tons of damage coming out there. Really nice, smart play there. Being very patient, looking for that. I mean, Jesus, look at the Ogre gold damage value. Absolutely taking apart the Warriors of Chaos. But Loopy's doing a great job of supporting them here. You know, a lot of these Ogre units, especially the likes of the Lead Belchers, pumping out a bit of value here. Yes, who is the main damaging force here? Is it Powder Guts? Yeah, Powder Guts, 2,000 gold value. My goodness. Oh, yeah. A lot of units putting out of the pressure.
Powder Guts are definitely performing quite well, and we'll see. He can... I just have to laugh because I assume the Grand Army... I don't know, actually. One of them's Wicked. I don't remember which, but he doesn't have any problem... Oh, I thought he was literally shooting the Plague Bearers. I was like, yeah, he doesn't have a problem shooting his teammate. But no, actually, it looks like he is, in fact, shooting the Shades here. But yeah, the Ogres got a lot of value kind of fighting 2 armies at the same time. Pulling back now so they don't lose out too much. Ooh, a nasty Soul Stealer here, hitting giant blobby units, including multiple single entities, a bunch of low model count units as well. Yeah, really nice.
Yeah, that was a really smart play. I mean, it's one of those things where in opportunities that you have where things are stacked, you have to punish it. You've got to be very careful not to stack everything. Looks like the Shades are now finding opportunities to fight and to shoot. Obviously, keep in mind that they have 2 projectiles, so from a range perspective, you will near enough never beat the likes of the Shades. The scrap launchers chucking things over, deterring the Shades from shooting, but they obviously can pull back because of the minimum. The range of the scrap launcher is near enough at its maximum here. 2 Shades out of the range now, only 1 remains. Dark Riders cycling to the likes of the Marauders of Tzeentch. Not really an engagement that you want to take, especially because the Marauders are going to be reinforcing, blobbing up that mass, making it very difficult for the Dark Riders to actually do much there. And obviously the Chaos Warhounds coming in from flank as well, and they only have 30 armor.
Yeah, they're definitely done for. I know you said you're not a biggest fan of Dark Riders. I think for what they are, they're fairly cheap. 40 charge bonus goes up to 50 with like Murderous Prowess. They can do a lot given their costs, but they are flimsy like cavalry at the end of the day. So. But, yeah.
I mean for me, it's like anytime you're in multiplayer and you're using a slot, it has to have a described thing that it's bringing to the army. And for me, Dark Riders are just garbage at everything. So oftentimes I don't rate them enough to want to pick them. Malekith's running towards the scrap launchers to stop the pressure happening onto the Shades. Shades are now getting into a bit of a Doom box, allowing the Doom Warlocks to start to skirmish against the Plague Bearers. As long as these Shades keep being mobile, they'll be able to print all value off, but in the middle of the fight, you can see it starting to break down into the fights where the Exalted Plague Bearers have a little bit of ammunition still. Yeah. So very scary for the Warriors of Chaos side here, because they're going to have to fight into exceptionally armor-piercing damage. Missiles, excuse me.
Well, especially if the Ogres have a Dismember here, they could potentially slow some of these units just to make sure that the Plague Bearers can actually get their volleys off, because right now, Warriors are doing what they should, which is to just keep targeting the Shaggoths onto the Exalted Plague Bearers so they can't use those missiles, because they'll do a lot of damage, right? So, but Nurgle, I mean, besides their passive slows here, they don't really have anything to actively, like, try and hold these guys back, so might be relying on a cheeky teammate, but right now, looks like the Ogres, besides the Sky Striders, are pretty much done for, but that said, the Sky Striders got some healing. They're getting into this backline area to run down what's left of the Shades, try and finish off Loopy, who is currently ahead on value. He's got Malekith still alive in the distance there, and some Doomfires chasing some routing units. But, yeah.
Here we go. Now we can see that Kholek is actually starting to look for Kugath. This is what we were kind of expecting to begin with. You know, the significant amounts of anti-large that you have, you want to get it into the targets that are, you know, believe it or not, large. We can see that the Lead Belchers are still putting pressure on the side here. I believe a Fleshy Abundance potentially might be thrown out on the side. Yep, indeed it has. Fleshy Abundance has come out for Kugath, so insane amount of healing. I don't believe they have any fire attacks to commit to reducing that by half. So the Lead Belchers are popping in. A lot of these Nurgle units are starting to flood around Kugath here, being an absolute annoying deterrent. One of the Summers of Rage have already routed. Unfortunately, the Chain Lantern was obviously committed, so it would be beautiful to have it now. Not really an awful lot of magic opportunities here. Malekith, I don't believe, has anything significantly insane. You know, the Doom Bolts potentially could be utilized, but it depends on how much magic he still has remaining, because obviously he's used quite a lot of Soul Stealers. Sky Rider's done a fantastic job mowing up the, unfortunately mowing up a lot of Shades here, so they've done a great job in shutting down the remaining units of the Dark Elves on the foot.
Definitely. Definitely. And Nurgle, I mean, they've still got quite a ways to get back, since they were kind of left to the side there. They didn't get a lot of value. They are definitely quickly catching up as, yeah, the Chaos player here just kind of struggles to finish as the Plague Bearers come in and surround to support Kugath. All that anti-large just starts to get dragged down. Their attack animations get, you know, like separated out into
a lot of damage still coming out of Kholek.
Yeah,
I think one of the best thing here is all of the inventory is on the back side of Kholek, so that's not going to interrupt his bonus damage. All of the damage is literally going straight into the Kugath right now. In this situation, I wouldn't try and attack with the Plague Bearers. I'd literally just blob them over Kugath to protect him a little bit here, because the damage is coming in thick and fast, and without any more healing available to them, you know, the Ogres is completely dead now. There are no Ogre units remaining in this fight.
Yep.
And so I'm scared for Nurgle, because in this situation, you got very limited amounts of ability to actually shut down Kholek, bonking Kugath on the Domium. The 30 bonuses as large is going to come in absolutely beautifully. Quick calculation, it's obviously, we've got a roughly about a 70% chance for Kholek to hit here. So, I mean, nothing's stopping him at that point, right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially since they've got magic healing on their own side, it's going to be very difficult to shut that down.
Yeah, I mean, 64 melee defense for Kugath with Cloud of Flies active is kind of holding for the time being, and Kugath, or Kholek rather, actually getting body blocked by his own caster a little bit here. He's like having to like re-step and kind of stutter step to reconnect on animations. Is getting the damage through, and yeah, Kugath nice. I think probably will fall here ultimately. If this were a land battle,
yeah,
Chaos
he's not long for this world.
Lose still, because wait, yeah. Wait, did the Grand Army come back? I was going to say, yeah, the Sky Striders
rallied.
He came
back in.
Okay, so
Sky Striders rallied back in.
Still in the fight
Shades
here, technically.
invisible, so he got nowhere to charge him.
Yeah.
Nurgle just died. Kugath has just perished, unfortunately. Tons of infantry, and if I'm honest, the Dragon Ogres don't need to try and focus on that. Let's kill the Lead Belchers, kill the things that are easy for us to deal with. Shades are going to start cycle charging around, well, putting themselves in positions where they can just absolutely pew-pew here. Marauders have been absolutely left to perish here. That's unfortunate to be a Marauder. I think in all senses of any Chaos Gods you'd follow, it'd be sucked to be a Marauder.
Yes.
Kholek, 4,000 gold value. Smart play. I mean, I don't believe these boys... I don't know if they had to determine who's bringing what, but anytime you've got a Nurgle coming down the line, all the Lords are pretty much large, so Kholek's obviously going to be a really great pick at all times. I don't know if there's any healing left. Obviously, Kholek's basically hit his cap, but there's still obviously a little bit of juice left in the tank for the Shaggoth. And now Malekith coming over, and definitely could be very terrifying, just because of the fact that what really can we do against a such reckless hate in the likes of Malekith? And honestly, in truth, he is an absolute jerkwad. Sky Shrider's being shot at. These Shades have found them. Tons of damage coming through there. Even the charge bonus with the morale, not going to do too much there. Another Shade coming around the outside, as they do say. But yeah, as long as they cycle charge, as long as they play towards the victory conditions, it's going to be very difficult for the Nurgle army. This is one of the things that makes it miserable. Fun fact, in Warhammer 2, I did my first multiplayer game as Grimgor, and I was kited to crap, and I hated playing Grimgor ever since. He is my arch nemesis. And similar situation here, you know, with the Nurgle units, going to be really struggling to get active in any of these, against anything here.
Yeah, I mean, they just, the slowness is definitely going to come to haunt them. They'll kind of just get cycle charged and shot to bits till the end of days. But let's see here. Yeah, I mean, the last man standing bonus is, what, 2,500? I forget exactly. I don't know, is it, it's not combined score, or is it whoever gets the highest individually? I probably should have, like, looked at what they said the rules were.
I think it's, yeah, combined gold value is what we're looking for here.
Yeah, see, so, like, Loopy and Raziel engaging each other's units, like, they are going to get value off of killing each other, but at the same time, you almost wonder if they should just...
almost dead?
Yeah, I mean, Malekith's has just been beating the crap out of him, basically, in these Plague Ogres, too. I didn't notice. I thought they were Plague Bearers, but there actually are some Plague Ogres here doing some armor-piercing damage. So that definitely makes a difference.
Of course, it's an FFA.
Yeah.
I'm like, boys, you're ODM, stop hitting each other. But yeah, I guess the smartest thing for them to do is actually to attack each other and kill these single entities, because of the fact that Nurgle will get the gold value instead.
Yeah,
right. You are completely right in saying that if Nurgle is the one that's standing, what happens to their points? I'm going to be very interested to see.
Yeah, if the last man standing bonus is enough to propel them, right now they need about, what, 4,000 points to equalize things?
Yes.
So,
I mean, realistically, it could happen. I'm not going to lie, that realistically could be a thing. It's so strange seeing them friendly fire like this in an FFA scenario. It's quite interesting.
Definitely very interesting, and tactically pretty sound, I think, too. But I'm just not sure there's enough points left on the board for Nurgle to get back to where they need to be, but we'll see. Let's kind of... I guess we'll calculate at the end, but it's been good so far. Looks like we're getting very close. The Nurgle Sorcerer being plagued by Plague Bears, I feel like, is just so appropriate. But, like, you picked the wrong side, old
not
man.
a fun scenario to be in, that's for damn sure. A lot of routing Dark Elf Shades, which is obviously very good for the ODM side. You know, we don't want them to be getting value.
Yep.
Okay, turns around, recovers from that, jinxed it, so they're going to start getting some shots into Plague Bearers. They're going to crawl on over back to them. Dragon Ogre should probably try and cycle charge through these guys instead of just blobbing themselves in. So, in this scenario, attacking the Exalted Plague Bearer on the very far side is the best play there. Getting the collision damage in there, but unfortunately, they didn't go for that attack. So the charge animations didn't trigger in, and the collision damage was not had to this day. Shades recovering on the side again, shooting the Plague Bearers. I think we rightly called out, there's not a lot of gold value for the likes of Nurgle to pick up here. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth has just routed, and the Chaos Sorcerer of Nurgle is probably going to rout because of the fact that the Shaggoth routed alongside of him. Obviously, the Lord being dead is not helping either, and being attacked in the rear obviously does not help either. Nurgle has no ability to really chase this one, so it's going to be a classic case of are you going to recover from your rout or not? So we'll have to wait and see. I mean, one thing to mention, Plague Ogres definitely have done a really nice job here. I mean, it's been an unsung unit here.
Definitely.
1.4k gold value. Done a great job, especially with the anti-inventory, surprising. Chopping through some of the inventory there. I'm half tempted just to start fast-forwarding. I'm not sure about you.
Yeah, it's yeah, we probably could fast forward a little bit through this late game stage. Why don't we go ahead and hit that, just as the Plague Bearers very slowly pursue the various units across the field.
Yeah, that's the reason why. It'll take like 10 years for them to get to each other. So the Shaggoth has just chased off the Plague Ogres, great idea. And the Shades are just shooting what they're able to. Looks like there's very minimal amounts of things remaining. Obviously, as the Nurgle player starts like kind of going for situations where they're not together, the Warriors of Chaos player can obviously take full advantage of this one. Looks like full route came through. Wait, I didn't see what the final points were. The end replay, does it tell us?
Yep. If you go to end screen, it will add the
yes.
the last man standing bonus.
It does look like the ODM boys managed to clutch it up.
Oh yeah, it ended up being very, very close, within 1,000 points.
Unbelievably close.
Oh yeah, that is incredibly close. But last man standing bonus almost pushed it over the top. But very heads-up play for Raziel and Loopy to kind of feed each other their value. And then, yeah, on the other side there, the Ogres did a great job getting rushed down 2v1. They managed to claw a lot of value out of it. Ultimately, just weren't able to sustain through it. Took too much damage in the process, but it is a very impressive defense for sure.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I mean, one thing I do want to comment on, Loopy coming in with 5,159 gold value on that Malekith. Absolutely terrifying. Shades did a fantastic job as well. The Doomfire Warlock, surprisingly, got a lot of value on there as well. I mean, since Loopy assumed he was vanguarding on the ogres there, it makes sense due to the heads-up aggressive play that he was trying to approach. And then I'll talk about Razil as well, and then you can jump into the other two. Razil coming in with 4.6k gold value on Kolak. I think that's majority in Kugath. 1,000 gold value on the Chaos Sorcerer, which is quite impressive, especially since it was only healing. Marauders just doing Marauder things there for Meat Shield. In fact, one of the Marauders is Tzeentch coming in with 727 gold value, so potentially attacking the Ogre Plague Bearers, I would imagine. Excuse me, Ogre Plague Ogres, excuse me. Miragard only 260, not doing too much, nothing impressive. But the Dragon Ogres, Shaggoth, and the Dragon Ogres coming in with 3.2k apiece. Beautiful value. And one of the Warhounds actually coming in 437. So, do you want to jump into either or?
Yeah. Well, I'll go with you know what? I'll go with the ogres. Why don't I go with them? Just because, like I said, they did a great job getting rushed down. Both the RORs paid for themselves, and then some. Between the Sky Striders and the Powder Guts, they were definitely the bright spots. The rest of the build does struggle to a degree. The Bulls actually, both of them pretty much pay for themselves, almost double their value in one case. Lead Belters also pay for themselves, and the Noblars, you know, can't argue with 200 value on Noblars, 400 value on Trappers. That's pretty much exactly what you would want. So, yeah, I mean, things are largely very cost-effective for the Ogres. Just couldn't, like I said, couldn't quite sustain that late-game stage.
Yeah, I think in any situation where you're being battered by two people at once, it's so difficult to try and keep your high-cost units alive. But what about Nurgle?
Yeah, Nurgle, Kugath, 3,000 damage value, no surprises there. Some of the Plague Bearers also, both the Exalteds, all three Exalteds, I should say, over 1,000, which is nice to see. The regular Plague Bearers, you know, they're kind of here. They do some stuff. And then, like we also called out during the replay, Plague Ogres were a highlight for sure.
Yeah, lovely. Well, I think that finalizes it. We've got ODM on 9, XMT on 6.
6 to 9.
Fantastic plays on both sides there. Yeah, 9 on the ODM side, unless I've miscounted, but it'd either be 8 or 9, but there would still be the victors there. So GG, well played to this clan war. Fantastic usage and bringing in some really interesting builds. And it was going to be a case of potentially the live match that we obviously witnessed could have been the deciding factor if the XMT guys kind of took a few of these games. But overall, some fantastic high quality games. That was a pleasure. And obviously, Dav, it was a pleasure to duocast with yourself. So thank you very much for having me on your broadcast as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Glad we got to do this. I know I had a great time when you had me on your channel before for the Domination tournament. So I definitely wanted to do some more stuff with you because it's very much enjoyable. So I hope all of you guys enjoyed as much as we enjoyed casting it for you. Big thanks, of course, to Wicked and Loopy, everyone from XMT and ODM. All the players, viewers, everyone involved. Thank you all so much. It's been a blast.
Couldn't agree more. Thank you guys. And shout out once again to Wicked and Loopy for doing the organizational things. We're just the guys that just, you know, rant on a stream and talk about the units, but, you know, they put in a lot of work in the back end. But yeah, thank you very much, Dav. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. And yeah, GG's, my friend.
You as well. Take care. We'll see y'all later.
Take care.